it's always exciting, and to hear the bells down the road from a Fairlawn View as the kids move from into their classes as well. So that was great. And just want to wish everyone a wonderful beginning of the school year, and hopefully returning to real normal as soon as we can. But I'm glad that we're this far, and I echo the appreciation that we are where we are, and that we're not dealing with some of the conflicts and acrimony that you see in other parts of the country right now. So I just want to give a big thank you to our community and our public health officials who have worked really hard to keep us safe, and for all of our individual community members as well. So that's all.
Thank you, Freya. Lizette, would you like to go next?
I'd like to go at the end, if that's okay. Well, before,
that's
after
fine.
Sophia.
Okay, Sophia, you ready?
Yep, sounds good. The big news of the day, of course, everyone's back in school. So I think that to me is the headline for what's on my mind, at the moment, as well as, a lot of really good ongoing work that we'll be discussing throughout the meeting this evening. So just a big welcome back and a big congratulations to everyone for that first day, our staff, our families, our kids, first and foremost. I've seen a lot of pictures. I've already heard a lot of stories, a lot of texts, and a lot of just hearing stories. And it is a resounding, with a little apprehension, because it's all kind of new after so long. But, just the overwhelming feeling of the joy of being connected, and the joy of that human connection, I think is, that's resounding, and it's throughout. So that's really exciting. We're not the end of the pandemic. Clearly it continues to be a roller coaster, but I'm excited by what we've learned and what we're learning, and how we're, starting to apply those learnings and working together towards restorative restart, which I know Dr. McFetridge will talk more about later. I want to echo Stig's encouragement to get vaccinated, to protect ourselves and our community and well beyond. And also thank you, Stig, for your words about, we have a good team and we'll work together, and that's the key. And that for me, it came up a lot at the Boys and Girls Club event, a Rebecoming event I participated in also earlier this afternoon. And that was just the theme. It's like we work together. It was great to see Virginia Perry there, and recall our first conversation way back when. I think it was when we were having financial troubles, and she reached out and we had great conversation. And then she met Sean, and then the rest is history. It's just, we're still at the beginning of that partnership, our partnerships with ALAS and the HEAL project, which I know we have contracts in the consent agenda today. Our internal collaborations, I think that's the key, is collaborating and maintaining that student focus. Anything else, creating narratives that position, us and them, that's really hard, I think, to help everybody thrive. A friend who's a teacher locally mentioned a quote to me that sticks with me, and I want to share that with folks here, which is very simple, but I think very elegant, which is, we all do better when we all do better. So we've got to, work together and realize the humanity in everybody around us. We have the same goals, and we've got to be able to work together towards those student-centric goals. So, yeah, and I appreciate Ms. Wall's story about collaborating for the classroom preparation. And I think that is the key, in making sure we do that across all our different roles. I think that's where we can be stronger, even stronger. And I want to put a special shout out to the high school. They've had a super heavy lift with a lot of academic stuff that's come in last minute too, from the state and otherwise. And a great conversation with Mr. Nazar at the Boys and Girls Club event today, just, along this theme of resilience and dealing with things that aren't perfect, right? That's hard. We all want to aim high. Balancing that with continuing to learn from those opportunities and those challenges to make things better systematically in the long term. And I think about that a lot in terms of equity, which I know we're going to talk about more at our upcoming retreat, but just really having that mindset to continually improve and even transform things to get better. Equity is not always about adding something. Sometimes it's about evolving something. So I think that can help us kind of maintain kind of open pathways to continually improving, both for excellence and for equity. So again, just collaborations are superpower. The more we can do it, the better. Gets us through this time of COVID and well beyond, and helps us serve our students as best as we can. So that's all for me.
Thank you, Sophia. Lizette, you ready?
I'm ready. Oops. Wait. Okay. Here I am. Yeah. Where do I start? I'll start with the alas, and I met with them and Sophia during the summer, and it was nice to have a face to all the different people and the different roles that each of the members, what they're in charge of. So it was nice to have a better introduction and a better understanding, and just sitting and getting to know each other. That was very nice. And thank you, Sophia, for making that happen. Also, continue to participate in the ALAS events along with Sophia in their great ALAS paint nights. We painted an elephant, and Sophia was like constantly getting complimented by the teacher. So that's something to say about your skills, Sophia. And what else? I met with Jesus, who graciously, he had no problem setting some time for me, and we talked about the budget perspective workshop for San Mateo County, and I wasn't able to attend, and he not only did he explain to me, but he made it so clear what really affects our district. So thank you, Jesus, for always taking the time and doing that. Also, I went to Moonridge and was involved with the Assembly Bill 104, which is a great opportunity. Unfortunately, the window of period is so small that it's heartbreaking, but we take and we do with what we can. Thank you for doing all of that work, Leticia. You did an awesome job. The counselors, they are willing and able to help. Thank you for the translations as well, the people who were there to translate. And thank you for the principal, Mr. Nazar and Mr. Boysen, for being there. And I think that speaks a lot, not only your presence, but just the time that you took to demonstrate that, it's important, and that you care for the students it speaks volumes. So thank you for doing that. It was very well organized. There's always room for improvement, but overall, thank you everybody for doing that. And then the night before, Leticia, you were also there, and thank you for doing that online registration support. Rosie was there. I'm sure that, there was several other people from the district there. And thank you for doing that and having that extra support. I am a board member and I still needed help. So thank you, Rosie, for personally helping me with that as well. Also, I attended the back to school night, and it was it was a big jump from Hatch. There's a lot of stuff. I attended the Spanish one, and there's definitely room for improvement. Unfortunately, the liaison wasn't there. It would have been nice to see her, have her personally translate. And teachers were there. I know there's several teachers who don't speak English, but it still would have been nice to have teachers present, just as parents, just to see the faces of the different teachers. Some teachers, I knocked on the doors just to wave, and it was a good thing. But definitely, there could be room for improvement. And then what else have I been doing? I think that's it. I just I'm like everybody has echoed. I'm gonna echo, how fortunate I am to be in this community and working with all the great people that help every single one of our kids in whatever they need. So thank you. And like I think Stig said, we're better when we work together. And also, Stig, you never need to apologize for mispronouncing something. That's from one English language learner to another. I mean, half of the time, not only do I mispronounce it, but I don't even know the meaning to stuff. So thank you for doing everything, and thank you for showing up and being a voice for for your members. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. I don't have much to add to all of that. I think you've covered quite a bit of ground, everyone. But what I do want to say is that all I keep hearing about from our administrators, our classified staff, our teachers, our community, the board, everyone is just talking about students first. And I think that's so important, that that's what we always have to think about. Students first, students first, students first. What is best for our students? And I'm really proud and happy to see that everyone's really on board with that, because that is what we're supposed to be doing. So I love that. And thank you for all the comments tonight. Let's move on to Sarah, our newest board member. Sarah's our student board member, and she'll be joining us for the year. So Sarah, we're very glad to have you here, and take it away.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. So we have a couple updates from the different schools in the district. So I'm going to start with El Granada. Dolphin Nation was swimming in school today. Parents, students, and staff did a wonderful job learning the new procedures for drop-off, lineup, recess, and lunch areas, and picking up at the end of the day. Teachers prepared lessons that reintroduced students to school routines, the excitement of being together in class, connecting with friends, and engaging in active learning. Dolphin Club welcomed 45 4th and 5th grade students to the after-school program. We are looking forward to an excellent school year. Next up is Fairlawn View. After months of preparation and planning, Fairlawn View teachers and staff welcomed back lots of eager and few nervous students for their first day of school today. Our school mascot, Whiskers, greeted students and danced with peppy music playing among the students' arrival. Students were engaged in lots of introductory activities focused on relationship building, community building, creative self-expression, and learning classroom procedures. We're looking forward to a great school year ahead. Hatch. Hatchies had a great first day of school today. We are so proud of students and their families for being flexible as we are learning the new procedures for drop-off, pickup, and eating and playing times. Teachers worked hard collaboratively to prepare engaging lessons to get to know their students and to focus on building relationships with their new students. Students enjoyed beautiful weather today at snack and lunch as we ate outside 3 feet apart on our picnic tables. I would like to thank the wonderful office staff, custodial staff, teachers, classified staff, and our amazing Blue team for working so hard to make our first day not only possible, but also memorable. Kings Mountain. Students were happy and excited to be back at school full-time. Teachers got to know students and prepared creative activities to engage students, including water paint, oil pastels, and reading questionnaires. Lunch and recess was fun, and students stayed safe and masked, eating 3 feet apart outside. Lots of fun. Cunha. Our first day went super well. Students were excited and ready to be back in full-time school. Teachers jumped right in with get-to-know-you activities and icebreakers, and laid out behavioral and academic expectations. The 6th graders quickly started learning the campus as we helped them find their classes and then split lunch to make it easier to supervise and work with the students. Students were excellent about masking up, and we had a safe and fun day. And finally, Half Moon Bay High School. It was an exciting and fulfilling day at Half Moon Bay High School. School opened with our leadership students providing free donuts to all our students and staff that entered the school. Teachers were genuinely excited to be working with their students again, and the student body displayed kindness and a sense of joy as they attended their classes. There were quite a few older students supporting and helping the students newer to the school, and that was very gratifying to see. All students were cooperative with the pandemic protocols, and it was very obvious they truly care about each other. The teachers were really grateful to the PTO, who provided a wonderful Sam's Chowder House lunch for the entire staff. It was a truly great start to the school year.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And again, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Sean, you're up. Dr. McFetridge, you're up.
Sean is fine. It's better, maybe. There was a busy day today. It's been busy all summer. I mean, I think it was fantastic this summer. We were able to serve, I think, something like 500 students. And that was terrific with the, help of a bunch of partners, and kids kept each other safe, and we didn't have to close classes, and people were good. And you'll hear a presentation on that tonight. But today, to get back to the big show, and to be able to stop at Fairlawn View and El Granada, and then to Hatch, and then to Cunha, and then the high school. And then I went up to Kings Mountain. And then later I went to Pilarcitos, and I checked in with the adult school staff, waved at the Los Listos folks. I mean, we got to visit a lot of schools today, and it was really exciting. I know people are nervous. It is different. We're coming back, everybody in the pool now. It's not just everybody in the shallow end and the hybrid and the half classes and the remote. But I think we can keep each other safe, as I said in my welcome back letter last week. And I'm sorry for all the different communications we've sent. I had another superintendent call me and say, did you get a public information officer? You guys are fast and furious with the communications. No, we're just trying to get all the information out. But as I said in one of those letters, in all those letters, I keep reiterating this: we can keep each other safe if we work together as a team. And if we all wear masks indoors. We all will wear masks indoors. Outdoors is optional, but we're encouraging people to wear them if they can. But we're following the guidelines from the California Department of Public Health in that regard. Distance, even though there are no set restrictions on distance, that 6 feet is no longer there, which allows us to all come back. I've said in my letter, 3 feet is doable. And in a lot of cultures, 3 feet is a good distance to be from people anyway. So I think this is a good thing for us to practice. Keep our distance, keep our masks on. Hygiene, as long as we keep washing our hands, keep sanitizing, keeping that going. And then I have to say it, vaccines. I've gotten a few people say to me, Sean, vaccines, this, that, and the other about vaccines. This county has done well with vaccines. This state has done well with vaccines. Again, I would urge everybody to get vaccines. That's why we send you the school messenger. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, think about it. You can protect yourself, you can protect your kids, you can protect your family, you can protect your community. If Governor Newsom says it, if President Joe Biden says it, if our Secretary of Health, Mark Gawley says it, if Fauci says it, vaccines are good for us and good for our health. It helped us beat polio. It helped us beat measles. We hope that 12 and under, those will be FDA approved, we hope, in the next month or so. And then maybe there'll be a mandate for vaccines. And I know some people don't like that. I see that in Orange County and San Diego County, people resisting masks. But I want to reiterate what board members have said and what Kathleen Wall said. I'm very comfortable being in the Bay Area, knowing that people believe in vaccines and believe in masks. For those members of the public we serve that don't want their kids to wear masks, if you have a medical note, then you can wear a shield and a face drape. And that's basically the law. So I just want to make sure, if you're not wearing a mask like this, then if you had a medical note, we can make accommodations, but it will be a face covering of some sort. We think this is much easier than a face shield and a drape, but we can make some accommodations. So if you can, get a vaccine. If you can, and please, if you're going to be in our schools indoors, wear a mask. I know working as a team, we can take care of each other, and I think that's important. I had the great privilege of attending Alas Farm Workers Dinner, got invited to that. I think that was Tuesday night. It was fantastic to meet with the Alas staff and to sort of meet some farm workers on the coast. They are more than ever, I think, appreciated by us for the work they do in California, in the coast side. It was fantastic dinner, and the work that Ayudando Latinos a Soñar that Alas does is really fantastic. Recently, a grand jury report just came out. We have some of our staff for staff openings we had because of Alas, because of the adult school. We want to keep working with ALAS, and you'll see a contract tonight. It's actually on the consent about services we've contracted out to ALAS, so we can have bicultural, biliterate services for counseling, for enrichment, for arts, for tutoring, et cetera, et cetera. So I just really want to thank Belinda Arriaga and Joaquin Jimenez, and Pat Carbuido and Cecilia Peñalosa and Enerdida and all these different folks, Bernie, all the different people I got to talk to on Tuesday night. ALAS is a fantastic partner for us, and I thank you for inviting me to that dinner. It was fantastic. And then today, Boys and Girls Club, the ribbon cutting. You know, I'm so grateful to the Boys and Girls Club. We came out of a budget crisis and asked them to step up and do the work that Boys and Girls Club does the best. And they took over athletic. But last year, more than athletics, they opened up our first pods. They showed us the way on how to have pods and how to have kids and how to treat kids with pods. And that opened us up for pods. And they were a model for us. Their board president, Virginia Perry, and their executive director, Jill Jacobson, when they met with me that first week and said, we have a dream and we need a home of our own. We need a permanent home. And when this board then approved the purchase of the portables and approved our lease that Mr. Contreras helped us negotiate with them, they have a forever home. And to see those beautiful murals painted today by kids is fantastic. You can see it if you're driving up Cabrillo Highway, Highway 1, whatever we call it. It was fantastic. And the rooms are beautiful, clean, well lit. There's a nice maker space. There's spaces for each grade. It's right across from the soccer field there. Fantastic. And I know that we're also working with CEF and Boys and Girls Club and ALAS on creating a community, and Coast Pride on creating a community hub and those other portables. The adult school hopes to have ESL classes and citizenship classes in partnership with Coastside Hope there too. And so we're working on strengthening these partnerships so we can strengthen the community and offer the services we need in the name of equity to those who need it the most, and indeed to all of our students, right? So that was just great. I thank the board of the Boys and Girls Club of the Coast Side. I thank the leadership and the staff. I thank those kids. That was a fantastic thing. You know, Kathleen Wall started off today, and I just really want to thank her for her positive comments. And for giving us some perspective. It was about the kids. The kids do phenomenal work. I think they understand so much more about the environment and masking and all kinds of things. They teach us so much. And she mentioned Ramon Macias, who, bless him, took on this position for first grade immersion and has returned to Hatch. And I say welcome to Ramon and thank you for doing that. And I think that's great. Cunha will miss you, but I think it's great that you joined Hatch. So I'm glad that happened and that you applied for that job, and how fantastic you're joining that team again of first graders. I also want to thank CSEA. I mean, Stig Lin has been a great partner, and oh my gosh, the work that's going on and is still going on for technology, for maintenance, for custodial services, for food services. There is a lot of work to do. Nothing is perfect. We're a little rusty coming back full time, but I know working together, we can address these things as they come and get better each day. I did mention, or maybe I didn't mention, the governor yesterday had some news that a vaccine mandate will be required of all our employees. So in the week ahead, we will send out a letter. We were going to send a self-attestation letter where people would be on the honor system. Have you been vaccinated or not? If you don't respond, we'll assume you're not. But now the governor's made it very clear. So we will mandate vaccine report. And if people don't report, we'll assume they're not vaccinated, and then we will have to test them weekly. The governor has laid out an October 18 deadline. We are working currently and have been for the last couple of weeks, looking through the California Department of Public Health to see if they could do end-to-end testing for us. And we still have quarantine, contact tracing, symptom reporting protocols as always. We will continue to encourage parents and families to take part in Hazel Health. We want to encourage people not to send kids or themselves to school if they're showing symptoms. But I think if we are diligent and take care of ourselves and don't go to school if you're sick, don't send your kids to school if they're sick, we will look out for your kids. You will look out for us. We will look out for one another. And so there's a lot on tonight's agenda. Just to give you a preview, I just want to go through this. We will talk about Hispanic Heritage Month, which is kicking off in a month. We will talk about summer school and get a recap of that from Debbie Silvera and from Leticia Batia and other folks who led that work this year. Thank you so much. Rosalba Segura, Miley Springer, et cetera, et cetera. We will get an update on education support services to the tune of medical and mental health and behavioral supports, which we know we have to take care of now more than ever, coming out of last year and into a year where we still have to take care of our medical and mental health and our behavioral supports. I will give an overview of the restorative restart, which the County Office of Education has asked us to all look at. And we started on Monday with our staff on that, talking about let's make sure that we use this as a roadmap, and we will continue to bring other reports to the board ongoing about that effort. There are some policy work on independent study because the legislation changed on independent study. We have the opportunity to join a CCAP agreement, which is a community college agreement, and Dr. Erin McVean, Vice Chancellor for the San Mateo Community College District, will be joining us, along with Lisa Petrides. Dr. Petrides is also a COSIDE resident and our board member here representing, so I'm really excited about that potential partnership. There will be a budget overview for parents that has been created by Mr. Contreras and Dr. Batia. There will be a public hearing about input for the use of ESSER funds, and another report will come later. We have some HR work where we have to have a declaration of need for fully qualified educators. We still need to hire some people. And then there will be a resolution that we will ask the board to pass, allowing us to apply for some money and get some money from the state that we have coming our way. So big agenda. A lot of work happened this summer, a lot of work going on. I thank the board. I thank our staff, our teachers, our support staff, our administrators. I thank our families and our kids, especially for their resilience, for their tenacity, and for showing a teamwork. And I thank the community partners, particularly, I will always say it, or I have to always say it, our parent-teacher associations that make all this possible for us as the glue between us and our families. So thank you so much and welcome back.
Thank you. Let's move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Lizette, second. Any discussion, questions, anything we want to talk about on the consent agenda? It's a big one. No? Okay, hearing no discussion. Rosie, will you take roll call, please?
Yes, Lisette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
5-0, thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. Okay, let's move on to item number 5, general business. Item A, proclamation endorsing September 15th to October 15th, 2021 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you,
Sean?
Thank you so much. Rosie's going to pull up the proclamation if she will, but I just want to say 2 years ago, we introduced this proclamation to the board. Very important proclamation when we serve a majority of Latino families on the coast side. It is important that we recognize the contributions and the heritage, Hispanic heritage. Over the years, we've talked about this. Is it Hispanic? Is it Latino? Is it Latinx? Recently, last week, I think there was a Pew Research report. There isn't like a consensus on what is the preferred term. And so I always try to meet my Latino and Hispanic colleagues and say, what term do you prefer? But we use the Hispanic Heritage Month proclamation because it is one that is a national proclamation. So I just want to quickly go through this. The early settlers of the New World, all the way to what we have today, which is a huge majority in this coast side. Hispanics and Latinos have shaped and strengthened our country. And September 15th to October 15th is designated as Hispanic Heritage Month by the United States Congress back in 1988. And we put here Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latinx individuals represent a wide range of nationalities and backgrounds, including Mexican, Puerto Rican, South American, Central American, and other cultures and origins, regardless of race. And September 15th was chosen as the date because that commemorates Independence Day for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And September 16th is Mexico's anniversary of independence. And this year's theme, I had to look it up, is Esperanza, which means hope in English, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope. I think the theme was probably picked because we got to have hope, especially with this last year. And we note that there's a huge and significant impact of Hispanic and Latino cultures and their centuries-old traditions that have manifested in the achievements, customs, and laws of this state and this nation. California in particular has a long Hispanic tradition before it was a state in 1852. Like so many other Americans, Hispanics and Latinos have overcome great obstacles to persevere and flourish in every sector of our society. And that includes in government, in law, in public service, in business, in agriculture, armed forces, commerce, education, the arts, science, and sports. And if you read the proclamation this year, you'll note that I added this next whereas, and I'm going to call it out. And I've already apologized to the people that I've named because they didn't know I was going to be doing this. And I know they're both humble individuals, but I think it bears mention. Whereas right here on the coast side in 2020, we saw historic achievements with Lizette Cortez becoming the first Mexican-born president of the CUSD governing board, and with Joaquin Jimenez being elected as the first Mexican-born member of the Half Moon Bay City Council. That history was made. And so California Education Code calls for instruction in the social sciences to include the study of contributions of Mexican Americans. I think it is fitting that we talk about Joaquin and with Lizette, and I thank them for their service. I also want to say that this is a fast-growing community, 39% of California's population, the largest Hispanic population in the United States, the majority of our students. And so let it be resolved, the Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board hereby recognizes, honors, and celebrates the many contributions, heritage, and history of Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas, and Latinx people during our annual commemoration and proclamation. And one more thing we added is we now have banners for every school site. So this also says, furthermore, be it resolved, the Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board hereby supports display of banners at every school site to help students understand the importance of Hispanic Heritage Month so we can institutionalize it and take it out of the boardroom and into the schools. And I do want to say that we will be following suit with other banners for LGBTQ History Month, for Native American Heritage Month. And these are all be co-sponsored. ALAS, Ayudando Latinos a Soñar, has co-sponsored along with the City of Half Moon Bay our new banner. So I look forward to you all seeing that in a month, but I wanted to bring this in August because September 15 is just around the corner, and I would recommend approval.
Thank you so much, Sean, for bringing this to us. This is an action item, so do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Rosie, will you take roll?
Yes. Lizette,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Sophia,
Aye.
Freya,
Aye.
Kimberly,
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Passes 5+1.
Sorry, I should have given us time to discuss as well. Did anyone have any comments or questions?
I have a comment, surprisingly. When Dr. McFetrich first made this proclamation, it really brought tears of joy to my eyes because it just validated what I knew and all the contributions that Latinos like myself and the ones to come have done for this community, and how proud we are to be part of this community, and to see my name on that. It's a humbling honor. I don't like to be I don't like attention, but I'll take it. If that recognition motivates and gives an opportunity for someone like me to step up and be part of this community more in a leadership role, I really hope that that's the case. And if that's the case, I'll take that kind of recognition. I really do I really do feel we have a great community, but it's the reality of it is that that the kids who we serve should also be served by people of color who look like them and are part of their community. So I hope this is also inspiring for other Latinos to step up and be part of this great district and this great community, because it's unfortunate, but you know, when over 50% of the population is Latino, and yet when it comes to leadership roles, it's very I want to say it's less than 15%, but don't quote me because I'm known to be wrong. So thank you, Dr. McFetrich, for doing that. It's a humbling honor, and I don't want to take credit because all I know that I can do is just work with everybody, and I do it with my heart and my open hands, and I appreciate everybody's support and just being able to be listened to. Thank you everybody for their support.
Just want to add a comment to thank you, Dr. McFetrich, for bringing this to us, and specifically also calling out Lizette and Joaquin as being exemplary in this role and in taking on the roles that they have. And just to your point, Sean, about this kind of taking the first step to make it more visible, physically visible on our campuses during this time, I hope that we can all take that as an opportunity to implement that honor and that gratitude and into everything that we do, everywhere that we do it, be it wherever our different roles may take us, and addressing the disproportionality in public schools that Lizette mentioned, as including so really insightful editorial in the Halfmoon Bay Review this week as well on this topic. And I think it's just the kind of thing that we need to continue. This is the first step to make this proclamation. Second step is to kind of publicize it. Third step is to really implement it in all the different ways that we can. And there's really no limit to that. So I hope that we can do that with this resolution, continue to do it with all the different resolutions that come our way, because that's the whole point. It's not just to have another thing on the shelf, but it's a message from our board as it's approved, to our community that, to come together and make it happen. So thank you.
Anyone else? That was pretty cool to see Lizette on there. When I read through it, I thought, oh, that's good. I liked it.
I want to thank Lizette. I know she's a very humble person who doesn't want a lot of attention called to her, but I also wanted to call attention to her and to Joaquin for their service, for stepping up, for their commitment to their community. It means a lot to me. It's a lot of the reason why I'm in this district. And I really appreciate it. And they are role models for us all. And thank you to them. And thank you to all the Latino families, all the Hispanic families, all our Latino leaders, Hispanic leaders, including my colleagues Leticia and Jesus and Rosie and Josefina, who are all here also on the line. We have work to do. I think the Clay Lambert editorial was very good based on the grand jury report, which we contributed to, and they reported on us. There are steps we can take to increase our staff so that they do look like our kids. I look forward to that going forward. This is a fantastic community, and I'm just so happy that we can celebrate the rich traditions and the rich contributions and all the work and all the sacrifices that our Latino and Hispanic colleagues make for us.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5B, update on summer school 2021.
Good evening, President Cortez, trustees, colleagues and community. And we're here today. And Rosie, if you don't mind just bringing, oh, there you go. You're bringing the team in. It definitely took a village. And we're just so happy to announce that we were able to serve 535 students this summer. That's approximately 20% of our population. We couldn't have done this without our amazing Debbie Silveria, who this year took on not only the support and the oversight of summer school, of just Big Lift, she took on the oversight of all of our programs. And with here today is our amazing summer school team. We have Daniel Robles. Thank you so much for being here. He led our high school portion of summer school. We also had Miley Springer, who supported our first time ever STEAM program, which included science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And also wanted to give a shout out to Rosalba Segura and Brenda de Jesus, who led our migrant summer school program. Without further ado, Debbie Silveria, you can go ahead and start.
Okay, and so here is the presentation that we worked on in the summer before leaving, and I'm going to speak on Miley's behalf. But thank you, Leticia. I agree, 20%, it was really a fabulous turnout and so much better than last summer because we were in person. And what Sean, our fearless leader, had said, which was so accurate, no COVID cases. That was the frosting, the silver lining. So our overview of summer 2021, we did have 112 in the Big Lift Inspiring Summer program, Rising K through Rising 3. The Rising 4 through 8, the STEAM program, there was a collaboration between Catholic Charities and we have Ryan's group, oops, that second slide, yeah, which was the expanded learning programmers. And we had also champions helping. So it was a collaborative group. Migrant education was with Rosalva and Brenda. Extended school year, we had at both the high school and at Hatch, we had 3 classes. And our high school summer program was led by Daniel. And we ended up with 4 credit recovery classes up at the high school, 2 bridge classes and a PE class, and then 1 at Pilarcitos. We had 1 credit recovery there also. Did anybody have any questions before we go on? Okay. Can we go to the next slide? Okay. So here is some of the breakdown of our partners that we worked with. We had the library facilitating with the Big Lift, Rising K through Rising 3rd. And we had incredible facilitators, and Ricardo Buzo was the lead for them. And the partnership was completely successful, in my opinion. The Rising 4 through 8, we also, here's the 12 facilitators we had, and champions, Catholic Charities, and the Global Kindness Initiative, which was wonderful. So the Rising 4th worked with champions, the Rising 5th, 6th, and 7th worked with Catholic Charities, and the Rising 8th was with the Global Kindness Initiative. And then credit recovery, we had the 5 classes, like 4 at Half Moon Bay High and 1 at Pilarcitos. PE was successful also with 24 students. The bridge, math, ELA, 2 classes. We created some bridge curriculum, so it wasn't all repeated in high school. And the extended school year, we ended up with 3 classes. We had the TKK at Hatch and 1 through 5, and then we had the 6 through 12 at the high school. And migrant, look at that, 120 students. That's incredible. Do you want to go to the next slide? So these are the partners and funders, were those logos. But here's our Big Lift. We have reading time. We had reading every day. You can see that all of our scholars were masked. And we were lucky enough to partner because we did have some huge staffing hurdles to overcome, but we partnered with 6 USF students that really, it was so successful, needed to teach or student teach in a public school setting. And this fulfilled their credentialing program. And they were able to get paid for summer school by doing it. And we were, they had great young energy and great new teaching styles. And just, it was a fantastic partnership. And that's who you see here. And here's the HEAL project. For the HEAL project is where we went on one of our field trips. It was a walking field trip, and you can see that all the scholars were completely engaged. It was in the afternoon with the library program. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, and here is the afternoon with the San Mateo County Libraries. Science, technology, engineering, art, math, mindfulness, and literacy. And they loved all of the hands-on work. You got some paper airplanes and some fairy tale engineering going on, but they were completely engaged. And most days, our scholars did not want to leave. They wanted to stay longer at school. You can go to the next slide. Okay, this is our closing ceremony, which was a little different this year. It was virtual. We usually have it on site and invite the parents, but this year we did email it to them. So I'm not sure if you'd like to see all of these. I know that Leticia's favorites are the Macarena and the Cha-Cha slide, and they are phenomenal, both of them. So would you like to see one of them? Should we show the Cha-Cha slide?
Yeah, let's see Leticia's favorite. That's my vote.
Okay.
Let's do the cha-cha.
The cha-cha slide is her favorite, yes. So can we show that?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to stop the sharing to move to the other screen. I was not ready for that. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Leticia, will you dance with it?
It's a big buildup for this.
No.
The thing is that it's all about the feet.
Oh.
So I don't know if you
Get up on your desk there. Get up on your desk. Come on. We need some entertainment here.
In the meantime, it sounds like it was a fun way to incorporate arts into the curriculum.
It was.
Oh, yeah, it gave us
thumbs
lots
up to that.
Kimberly gave us lots of ideas as we finalized the VAPA master plan. Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Leticia, we're missing the sound. Why don't you sing for us?
I know, I can't hear the sound. I don't know why.
You can sing. Come on. We know the song.
Move to the left. Move to the right.
Right. Now slide.
Hey.
Slide. Slide.
There you go, Leticia. It was awesome to see these kids having fun and learning.
Yes, isn't it?
Yes, we were so pleased that we did have a really nice tour that Dr. McFetrich and Dr. Bhatia were able to come to our site, and they saw elephant toothpaste and miniature volcanoes and slime. It was
the slime was my favorite. Danielle, did you get any slime at the high school?
Danielle was busy though. He was doing lots of read alouds. He was working really hard in special ed. He was so engaged with all of his teachers. He was fantastic. I'll have him present his slide.
If you ever need a little pick me up, just refer to this slide.
Okay.
And here's the STEAM program. And Miley did a voiceover, but I hopefully, can you get the sound? I'm not sure. Should be on the next slide.
We'll see. If not, I don't mind going over.
Okay. I need to go back and share the sound. Just give me a second.
Okay.
I love that the kids didn't want to go home at the end of the day.
They didn't. Yeah,
That's awesome.
They were, yes, they were so engaged and so happy to be back. It was a fantastic program.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that we partnered here with STEAM, with the Boys and Girls Club also.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear the sound. I'm not hearing.
Oh.
Well, look, I'll read it. This summer STEAM Academy 4th grade was staffed by Catholic Charity. We can go back. I can read the slide and talk about that. So STEAM,
so
they would
program.
Go ahead, Debbie. Go ahead, Debbie.
Well, during the STEAM program, I just want to make sure that that we're aware. In Rising Forth, we were with Champions the whole time, but the 5th through 7th grade, they started with Catholic Charities, and then they were with Boys and Girls Club in the afternoon. In the 8th grade, the same thing. We had the Global Kindness Initiative, but the afternoon, they were with Boys and Girls Club. And what they did, because we had some issues with sites, with roofing, we ended up being creative, and we had the Rising 5th and 6th at Hatch, but Boys and Girls Club would come pick them up at noon and walk them over to Boys and Girls Club. And but the Rising 7th and 8th were at the Portables at Cunha, and they had a real huge successful partnership with the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you. And so, so the 4th through 8th grade STEAM, I mean, it was pretty amazing as a parent. I mean, we researched summer programs, and typically, I mean, they can reach up to $1,000 a week. And we basically brought a high-end summer program to our students with our STEAM. It was a full day. Kids started early in the morning at 8, and like Debbie said, the first portions of the previous slide, Catholic Charities and Global Kindness Initiative and Champions were our partners during the day.
In the morning, yeah.
In the morning, of course, in the morning. And then at lunch, and we're so lucky to have that partnership with Boys and Girls Club. We had staff from Boys and Girls Club come to Hatch, pick up the students, walk them over to the Boys and Girls Club. And like Miss Trustee Hines had mentioned earlier, they had such an amazing open house, and we saw the work that the summer school students did. I mean, my favorite were the bird houses. They were super cute and hands-on, and we're just very lucky to have so many partnerships here locally. And our students, I mean, we just saw them always engaged, happy, and wanting to, and then the best thing is that they were learning academic vocabulary as they went through. And so we know that this definitely is the funding that we use for expanded learning opportunities. It definitely has started to address that above and beyond learning for our students. And we hope to continue to offer a STEAM Academy next year. And we want to start planning as early as late fall to ensure that we are able to staff, and hopefully more of our CUSD staff can come support us. That's the reason why we needed to partner with Catholic Charities. We didn't have enough staff that was able to support the program. But our feeling is that if we start planning early and we post positions early, we will be able to recruit our own amazing staff to support with our STEAM portion this upcoming school year. And Rosie, next slide. And so we had 150 students, and again, amazing attendance, 96.74 attendance. And again, focus on STEAM, which is what Silicon Valley and the peninsula is all about. Next slide, Rosie. And here are a few pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, we did get to see the kite flying, I believe, at one of our visits.
I think you did.
Yes. Hands-on experience, hands-on learning, academic vocabulary. Here you see our kids in action. And the next slide. We even had some theater and some performance.
And a talent show.
A talent show, yes. And here's face masks, I believe, there to the left.
I think so. I think those were part of their costumes, yes.
Yeah, that was amazing, the talent show.
What's the dragging in the middle?
Well, I know.
I saw that. I actually
did. We were there, yes.
We were there, right?
We were. I think the skit was about COVID. It was actually about patients going to the hospital and they were trying to help. Yes.
So this slide specifically, we happened, Debbie and I, to be here on that, with that picture. And the patient who's on the floor refused to wear a mask.
Yes.
So the doctors were pulling the patient out of the office. That's what it was.
Exactly what happened. Yes.
Yes.
That's funny.
Next slide, Rosie. And here we have some of the art that was incorporated. And next slide, Rosie. And the beauty about just being at Cunha and having that partnership with Boys and Girls Club is that seamless transition and the ability to have both indoor and outdoor learning occurring at the same time.
Yes. And the Boys and Girls Club has a lot of alumni counselors, which is so fantastic. So they have a far reach into our students' lives. Like they know a lot of the students, the summer students. So it's just really a successful model.
And the next slide. Some of the outdoor sports. And then our migrant education program. We actually had our own Brenda de Jesus, who was a student trustee a few years ago, and now she is a kindergarten teacher at Hatch. She had an emergency, so she wasn't able to present tonight, so I'll be presenting on her behalf. But it's so amazing just to have that circle, and our own superstar, as our kindergarten team says. We had a total of 120 students, backpack and school supply distribution. This happened in order for us not to supplant our migrant services, happened in the afternoon, so that if students were qualified to attend STEAM or any other program, they would be able to seamlessly transition to the afternoon piece. And here were some of the field trips that our team took: Pier 39, Salinas, and our Oakland Zoo. So it was a small group, and they rotated, and it was a great experience for our students to have that safely distanced field trip. There are two main objectives for our migrant education summer school programs that revolve around English language arts. We need to make sure that throughout any summer or after school program that we incorporate and teach expository texts. And the outcome is to ensure that students produce 2 expository texts. Also, being able to engage students in writing at least 2 genres. And our Brenda de Jesus was able to support that Common Core state standard to ensure we're in alignment with migrant education in support of the English language and English language development. The next slide. Here are some of the pictures of the field trip. And again, many of our students sometimes have never been to San Francisco, believe it or not. And so this was a great opportunity to be able to take our students and get them on a bus and get them exploring our local peninsula in San Francisco Bay Area. Next slide. Here are more pictures. We went to the farm there. And then students were acknowledged for completion of the course at the end. And our ESY program that also ran in conjunction with all of our programs. The next slide, Rosie. So ESY is defined here. It's authorized under both federal IDEA and state law. And these services must meet state standards. They're provided for special education students beyond the district's normal school year. ESY is defined and must be provided should an IEP mention it in a student's IEP, and it's at no additional cost to our parents. And then the next slide.
ESY stands for extended school year, just so everyone knows.
Yes, thank you. ESY, extended school year. And here's our special education staff. We had 1 preschool, 1 K teacher, and 2 paraprofessionals, 1 elementary teacher, 1 through 5, and 3 paraprofessionals, 1 secondary teacher, 6-12, and 2 paraprofessionals. And also here you'll find the list of additional service providers for students that would push in. This includes a speech and language pathologist, occupational therapist, adaptive PE specialists, vision specialists, and behavior management specialists. The next slide, Rosie. And so transportation, similar to the regular year, that should a student's IEP require transportation, was provided for students. And it included contact work aligned to the student's IEP goal, food services for all of the students, and again, access to any of the related services that we mentioned earlier, as well as support from district paraprofessionals. The next slide. And now we have Daniel Robles, who will give us a highlight of the high school program.
Hello, I'm Daniel Robles, and I was the high school program manager. Really quickly, I do want to take a point of personal privilege and thank the board for recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month. That really does mean a lot for many of us. Also, last year, I was working on my admin credential, and I had the fortune of watching the board meeting where you first acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month. So that really is impactful, and thank you very much for that. So here we have the welcome check-in. Our program had 2 cohorts. So there was an AM cohort and a PM cohort. I'll explain a little bit more about the cohorts as we move on. But the AM cohort was meeting from 8:30 to 10:30, and the PM cohort was meeting from 11 to 1. We had snacks and food available for students as they arrived. As you can see, that is me, Claudia Velasquez, and myself. We were working the check-in together. Oftentimes, Ms. Velasquez would have to be in the office, but we were checking temperatures, we were making sure everything was healthy, and thankfully, as was stated earlier, we had no COVID cases. So we can go ahead and continue. Some students did tell us they had COVID. Unfortunately, it was all a lie, but that was worked out as we went through everything. So one aspect of our program was the Summer Bridge program, and this is for rising 9th graders. We had 2 educators. We had Mr. Cabrillo, who was teaching math, and we had Ms. Levino, who was teaching English language arts. These students were on campus for both cohorts. They were first with 1 teacher, either Mr. Cabello or Ms. Levino, and then they switched to receive instruction in the other course. Both groups had about 28 students per cohort. We can go ahead and, okay, thank you. We also had credit recovery and PE with Mr. Emig. Mr. Emig had about 50 students altogether, and our credit recovery staff, we had 4 educators. Those were Mr. Olson, Mr. Hees, Mr. Ikes, and Mr. Westwood. Unfortunately, I see Mr. Westwood's name is not fully visible there. Our credit recovery teachers, or credit recovery educators, excuse me, were using Edgenuity. Just to explain a little bit about Edgenuity, because it is really important when we consider the enrollment totals. Edgenuity is a program that is specifically based on the needs of every individual student. So a teacher will basically monitor the progress of students while students work towards completing whatever credit they need to recover on their own. So that's really important because if we look at the enrollment totals, we'll see that at the start of the program, we had 167 students, but eventually we had only 129 students. Now, there were a few reasons for leaving. The most important reason, of course, for all of us is because there were students who completed all the requirements before the end date of the program. So those students left early because they had completed the 1 or 2 courses that they needed to complete, and they were able to continue on with the rest of their summer. In other cases, we did have some students that had extenuating circumstances and they had to transfer to Pilarcitos. And so that also did lower our numbers. And unfortunately, lastly, there were some students who, for whatever reason, were unable to complete the program at the high school. I would like to emphasize that along with Ms. Velasquez, we did contact students to make sure that they were able to continue. We did have the rule at the high school, or the policy at the high school, excuse me, that students could only miss 2 days of 2 days of on-campus learning, or else they'd have to be dropped from the program. That was what was shared with us. However, we were very flexible with that. We were definitely contacting parents if students had legitimate reasons for not being able to attend classes. We weren't trying to get them out of the program. We wanted to make sure they completed what they needed to complete. So that's where that's what we can see there with the enrollment numbers. Besides this, as was mentioned earlier, we did have an ESY program. There was a section of ESY students that were housed at the high school, and it was very delightful to be able to read in class with them, to do read alouds. That was a very pleasant experience. It was actually pretty fantastic. And I'm not sure if there's one more slide for the high school or if that is it. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Robles.
Thank you, Daniel.
So Pilarcitos, also similar to the Edgenuity program that was running at Half Moon Bay High, we did have Lisette Bandana support 51 students. So we're very lucky just to have our summer school leaders, our educators, really, despite a COVID year and only getting, I would say, about a week and a half break, we're just very fortunate to have everyone who pitched in to support and serve approximately 20% of our student population that were our at-promise students. So thank you. And that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you all. Thank you, Danielle and Debbie and Leticia, and everyone else who worked on this. I know you all had to overcome so many hurdles to get this done, starting with not having teachers to teach it. So it's amazing to me that you were able to serve over 500 students. And the details, like having the kids go in the morning if they might have another course to do in the afternoon, so they had more to do. So thank you for paying attention to those details. It's an amazing opportunity for our kids, and I'm so thankful you did it. Anyone else have comments, questions?
I do. I also want to thank everybody involved. It was such an amazing program. My daughter was enrolled in it, and she was bummed that there was no school on the weekend. So I mean, that says a lot, because it's not, it's always a struggle sometimes to get them motivated, but you guys all did such an amazing job, and thank you for, I mean, this is a great example of how, you provided this really great program by working together and doing everything that you could do possibly for these kids. And I want to thank you as a community member, but as a parent as well. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I realize that we spend a number of sessions talking about metrics and gaps, and it becomes rather dry. But what is so uplifting about this presentation is that it really was whole child, and children learn better when they have all of these cognitive stimulus opportunities. You try to put bums in seats and a pencil in a hand, and if that's all you do, the kids don't thrive. And so obviously from those photos and those experiences, the children are thriving and learning. And so thank you, Dr. Bhatia, for acknowledging the VEPA effort that we have ongoing in the district. And hopefully some of the feedback from the summer school will also be present in our conversation year round. So thank you very much for all of your efforts, and Debbie for leading all of the summer program, and Daniel, and this was just amazing. Thanks.
Miley, and I had Andrea Eister. I had 3 phenomenal program managers, because I could not have done it without them. And the one thing I did forget to mention is There was 80% academic improvement, rising first through rising third in the Big Lift Inspiring Summer. Yeah, we did have STAR data that we were able to accumulate. So that was phenomenal. Yes. The biggest growth was for the rising second. But there was so much engagement. I completely agree. It was great.
I'll echo the thanks and just really put a shout out to those of you here and those of our staff that were able to teach this summer after a very exciting year last year to be able to keep going. And I hope you got some break and could take time with yourself and your family to recharge a little bit, because we're hitting the ground running again. But just all of you guys, and just see the enthusiasm, that you have about this program and how much we did for kids. And I was going to ask you guys if we were able to get some feedback from students and from families, and certainly the feedback that they didn't want to go home on the weekend. That's better than any survey is going to ever give you, right? That's your feedback right there for those kids. So, I think another cool thing about the summer STEAM program. I know there were high school kids that were also working with Boys and Girls Club as junior counselors, right? And that was so cool because they're not only getting their community service credit hours done in the summer, which is way easier than during the school year, but also really forming bonds. And it makes just our community feel more like a family rather than these disparate little pieces. But it's like they're seeing as kids that they kind of sort of know, and they're cool because they're older, and it really helps us, I think, as a community, a school community and beyond, really forge those bonds. So I'm really appreciative of that. And I appreciate, Debbie, you're starting to refer a little bit, and I'd be curious too, and maybe this is a future presentation, just kind of a bigger picture, given where we ended up last year, I'd love to see some more information around how did our students fare? This is not just a summer school thing, but this is how did our students fare academically? I'd love to see some, I love to see the shining stuff in the pictures, and that's fantastic. Complemented to that is we have to look at the gaps, right? Of course, and seeing where kids ended up last year, where was that filled by summer school, what's left, and how are we going to address that moving forward? I'd love to see some more metrics and data in a future presentation. Probably Leticia, that falls to you, I'm guessing, and Sean, to figure out how to do that, but to just get a better sense of how are our kids doing? What are we, how are our interventions helping? And what do we have planned? And so that we can support you guys along the way to do that.
Well, the one thing I think we could probably, I'd have to work on, but we probably could get the credit recovery data. And so, because you saw the data before, and I know that this is the first year we ever had 5 credit recovery classes.
That's all. We had such a huge need. I'm glad that we were able to fill a lot of that. So knowing, more about okay, so what about the kids that didn't, what are we doing for those kids that didn't get through? How did Lexia change over the year? However, whatever metrics that we have. I don't know how to I wouldn't prescribe that, but I trust you guys to come figure out how are we doing? How are we getting there? And how are we learning? How are our kids learning? So I think that's fantastic. And also,
great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think we can talk about it more later in the upcoming presentation on mental health too, but really other benchmarks are helpful too, as Kim said, because there are whole children having some sense, and I know sometimes that can be harder to measure, but some sense of their well-being and how is that evolving over the course of time. I did hear some interesting ways to start, school districts are starting to measure that, and you guys are the experts, and I trust you to figure out what's best for us. But thank you, phenomenal work. And again, the partnership, it's all over your slides too. You guys made it happen, right? By the end of the school year, it was how are we going to do this? And you guys figured it out, and you partnered, and you made it happen. And that's such a great use of our resources to be able to get the experts and get the resources to meet our kids' needs. So again, thank you for that. Creativity and partnership and collaboration. We can't do it without that.
Sophia, I would love to hear how some of the other districts are measuring social emotional learning in the summer, only because I actually think that's the biggest gain for summer school. And I don't know how to measure that. Yeah.
I don't know either. I'll look back at my notes. There was a webinar, I think it was from BA probably like a week or two ago, and I took a couple screenshots because I do that so I don't have to like write all my notes. So I'll look them up, Debbie, and I'll send them to you, and Leticia or Martha, whoever might be interested. Note.
Okay, anyone else?
I do want to thank Debbie and Danielle and Miley Springer and all the different leaders that contributed this. I know that Jesus and Leticia were deeply involved, working with different partners, Boys and Girls Club, with Catholic Charities, different folks that helped us out with this. But Danielle and Debbie, Miley were fantastic. Rosalva Segura, fantastic teacher leaders and leaders in this effort.
Thank you all. And thank you for bringing that to us. I was happy to see it. So thank you so much. Okay, moving along. Let's go on to item 5C. We're going to get an update on education support services, medical and mental health and behavior supports. Who's presenting, Sean? Oh, Martha.
Martha will help us.
Take it away, Martha.
Good evening, President Cortez and board members and Dr. McFetrich. I'm here tonight to present to you sort of our how educational support services is helping our teachers and principals and our families on our return to school. And so I just kind of wanted to bring this to you and to our community so that they know that we are really ready to help and to help our students return and to return safely. So next slide. Thank you. I'm going to show the areas of the district's readiness in medical, mental health, and behavior supports. We'll be talking about our expanded Hazel Health program, our 4 pillars, our preparation and our training, and then of course our contact tracing protocols to help keep us safe and to prevent community spread within our schools. And then of course meeting student health needs. When Caroline presented, she talked about her 3 pillars of education, prevention, and intervention. And I just wanted to sort of reiterate that we have those pieces in place. Not only for our students, but also for our teachers. I'm excited that we're expanding our community partnerships to support our teachers and staff as well. And Care Solace is also a referral piece that we'll be using again this year to help our, as a resource for everybody in our school community. And then behavioral supports, positive behavior intervention and support, which we abbreviate usually to PBIS, is our school climate piece that helps which is a framework for our principals to develop a framework with their staff to develop positive behavior interventions where they set expectations, teach those expectations and acknowledge them as a way of setting the tone for climate inside the classroom and outside the classroom and across the school community. Next slide, please. Again, I'm just taking a look at in the meetings that we've been having around this, a framework for learning recovery. How are we using our MTSS framework for learning recovery? And these are sort of the 4 main points, is that we're working to develop a tiered support framework that is responsive rather than reactive, meaning that we have things in place so we can hear what's needed and match it to what we have in order to, to bring, to bring solutions to whatever an issue is going on. We also are trying to create intervention protocols and access to those intervention programs that are easy to understand and easy to navigate. Care Solace is a really great example in that it's really easy for us to communicate the information. It's easy for families, teachers, and students to access, and there is a lot of follow-up, and we are able to track data in terms of how much access how much access our different community people are taking advantage of that service. And then our leads are, we've been working on our own professional development with our leads so that they're knowledgeable, flexible, and available. Happy to say that tonight we will have a full-time mental health program, which is very exciting, especially returning from COVID. So that is really exciting, so that we can really address K through 12, not only just crisis intervention when students really need a one-on-one support, but that we're also in there building a resiliency model of with prevention and education of our students and our families. And then we're also creating sufficient bandwidth to address anticipated student, family, and staff needs. One of the things that we've made ourselves available to is a pilot study for telehealth for our students through the SELPA, working with students that may be struggling with transitions coming back to school. Next slide. So looking at the medical health at the medical health side, I'm not sure if I spoke to this before, but our Hazel Health, we're having expanded services where we're being able to provide baseline medical support to our families. So when a family is filling out their symptom checker for the day, and if they were to get like a sad face, don't go to school, they can automatically, if they've signed up for the service, click a button and talk to a physician's assistant, provide the symptoms to the physician's assistant. The physician's assistant can tell them what next steps might have to be. And it's through a system like this that we hope that parents can get help for their children, their sick child, so that sick child can get better and back into school faster. We're also setting up telehealth, Hazel Health telehealth in our school offices and in our health offices at Cunha and the middle school. So with the effect of keeping our campuses safe, lowering absences, and getting kids to be able to return to school faster, and preventing chronic absenteeism because of illness. The 4 pillars, of course, are constantly being updated, and our medical health team is constantly on top of this. Contact tracing protocols have also changed recently. So between the 2 of them, the different kinds of messaging that we need to do, retraining our staff around contact tracing, and of course, communicating that informal contact tracing really isn't helpful. Leave it up to our point people that are identified at all of our school sites, including Los Listos, and we have a contact person at the district office. So we are covered with people who have had extensive training in contact tracing to help mitigate community spread. And then of course, the maintenance of the health and safety for our students through screening, training, and health planning. What's really important about medical health is that some students have fragile health conditions in the sense that that they may feel like they need some sort of specialized program. And with the medical health program that we have, we can accommodate students' health needs so that that isn't their defining characteristic, so that they can come to our home schools and be themselves and grow in their own strengths, and that whatever it is in terms of that particular chronic condition, that's in the background of their lives, and that doesn't fully define them. What fully defines them is what their hopes and dreams are, and the fact that they're able to go to their community school and be with their community peers and engage in the education that we have K through 12. So that this particular part is really exciting, and I'm particularly happy to say that we feel well positioned to keep our campuses safe through the expansion of Hazel Health and our ability to react quickly to the 4 pillars, the contact tracing. And now we have new just out today, hot off the press, vaccinations and testing protocols that we'll be communicating to our staff within the next week or so. Next screen. So our mental health program, we have a systemic approach to creating or emphasizing individual and community resilience, which I think is really important. So we have a resiliency model, and then we have a restorative model, and then everything in between. So now we have full-time support. We also our community partners working with Star Vista, ALAS, and our other community partners. We are fleshing out our one-on-one services at all of our different schools. And then of course, there's the 4 pillars of medical health, and then the 3 pillars of mental health, which is education, prevention, and intervention. And as I mentioned before, intervention is that one-on-one piece when a student is in crisis. We can really help build the resiliency model through education and the prevention programs that we have available to us. We have a family engagement calendar that's almost full. I'm happy to announce that there's going to be a community resiliency model training for our parents as well as our teachers. And there's going to be 2 one-hour workshops in the evening for our parents around the community resiliency model. And we'll be sending out flyers for that as well. And you all are certainly welcome to attend any one of these family engagement evenings. They're really very informative and very engaging. We are developing transition supports for students. A lot of the telehealth program that we're being involved in, we're focusing on students that may be struggling with their transition back to school. We'll be rolling out our social emotional learning curriculum, Connect with Kids, and then of course, direct service to students, staff wellness, as well as a partnership with TeachWell, which is focused on staff wellness as well. Next slide, Rosie. For our behavioral supports, all of our schools have been trained in PBIS and have developed frameworks for a system of expectations, teaching those expectations and an acknowledgement process. But because we had sort of because of school closures, we're reevaluating our PBIS work at each of our schools through our behavioral supports person. Jessica Reed is our behaviorist in the district, and she'll be working with our principals to assess where they are with positive behavior intervention and support framework, and then to determine what kinds of supports are needed to bring that fully on board, because that really is a tier 1 school climate piece in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And we'll be able to use a variety of data sets to effectively address school climate and culture. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about PBIS, is that it is really built on a data cycle of assessing the data and making changes as we see what the data is pointing us to. And then right now, our school psychologists are working with the principals to put our coordination of service teams in place so that we can address targeted PBIS goals as well. And I think the last slide is questions.
Thank you, Martha. Questions, comments, anyone?
I can start. I just want to thank you, Martha. This is tremendous. For you and your team and all our staff are all that you're doing, these 2 very important areas always, and especially now more than ever. And 2 things that you said stood out to me is like really kind of in the vein of, where I think we want to keep going, which is, your comment about setting up like a framework for students so that their medical conditions or other conditions don't define them. And I think that really is, that's the essence of inclusion and being and honoring that diversity and helping kids through that and not stigmatizing them for it or having them really, as you said, defining it for them. I think that's really exemplary. In addition to kind of in a different way, your rigor in having your behaviorists check in and see how things are going with PBIS and working with schools to come up with plans for addressing any gaps that are there. I think that's really good example of kind of setting something up and then continually improving it. I'm really grateful for that. So I had a couple like questions on the medical side, and just if I don't know if actually probably my only question at this point is I think a lot of it I've kind of seen transpire throughout the day on the school sites, but I'm curious like to what extent we're able to use more outdoor classrooms and, particularly for PE classes or others that are really kind of easier to do outside. And I don't know if this is a question for you, Martha, or for somebody else, but I'm just curious because we do have such a great climate and, ample outdoor space. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that.
Well, you know, all of us were visiting the schools today on the first day of school. I had the pleasure of being able to go to El Granada and Kings Mountain. And what I know from talking with teachers is that they are using some of their time indoors and some of their time outdoors. And a lot of the spaces that the principals have put together and like putting dolphins, you know, 6 feet apart, or creating those spaces outside, allow teachers to sort of be flexible about where lessons occur. And I saw a lot of teachers outside today when I was visiting, and it was really wonderful to see. And I know that it's like the lunch times was a puzzle that a lot of our principals had to solve, and they really put their heads together with their staff and their teams to find a way to have a lunch schedule that kept everybody safe and full, you know, so nobody's hungry and everybody's safe. So it's just those little things. But yes, I always feel, I kind of feel this way. I feel like the more we get kids outside, I'm hoping that it will bring the rain, because, you know, when we start to rely on the outside, then that's when the rain is going to come. So I'm hoping being outside will bring us a lot of rain.
And then we'll get some tents and we'll still be good. That's awesome. Do you happen to know, are all the snack lunch meal times outdoors, or is it kind of spaced enough when they're indoors?
It's a combination of both, inside and outside.
So when they're inside, they're amply spaced.
Yes, exactly.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say thank you, Martha, and I appreciate the upcoming workshop for the parents. I think that's something I personally am looking forward to, and I'd also like to just offer my help and support if these workshops are also offered in Spanish, and help you just advocate and spread the word. So please, if you need any support in that, let me know. I'd be more than glad to help you make phone calls and get people involved, because sometimes those robocalls, they don't do justice to all the great things that the district is providing to all the families. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Lizette. And yes, definitely, we will call on you for that help, because we're really looking to make sure that everyone in our community can be a part of the great family engagement evenings that we have in place. And we feel like it's good for everybody, but we do sometimes have trouble with our messaging to make sure people can click on that Zoom link and come and feel welcome. So thank you for offering your help.
Quick question, kind of a detailed question, just checking in on, I think Dr. McFetridge, you referred earlier as well to the vaccination mandate from Governor Newsom yesterday. My understanding is the date for the compliance deadline for that, it's in October, is 15. It the 15th? Okay.
I may have said October 18 because I'm thinking about another date. It's October 15, that's okay, a Friday.
It's about 2 months.
Yeah, and so what we have to do is we have to make sure that all our employees, and we'll start on this probably next week, we'll ask everybody to give us some kind of documentation, a photo copy or facsimile, you know, in some sort, emailed to us or whatever, to the district office, and have documentation of those who have been vaccinated. And then by October 15, we need to make sure that we are setting up monthly testing in case people aren't vaccinated. I will tell you anecdotally that I think a great majority of our staff are vaccinated, as is the case, you know, of adults, you know, in general, but we do know that there are different levels of vaccination among families. So we can't mandate for families. At some point, I hope that these vaccinations are ADA approved for youth and for adults, and that, you know, when the 12 and under are eligible, then I would imagine that at some point the legislature will try to mandate vaccines, as they have with, you know, rubella, measles, polio, et cetera, et cetera. But I know it's still, you know, people are still not completely convinced, but we do know that this is the safest way to keep from really getting very sick with COVID.
Yeah, that would be my expectation as well. And I just wanted to give an update too, from the county had another ad hoc call with all elected officials earlier this week. And Dr. Mora was on that call as well. And I think his perspective from knowing the regulatory timelines more intimately than I do at this point is that they're expecting currently that there's maybe some delay in the approval for 11 and under, possibly early next year, like late winter, which would be a real bummer. I think they're trying to do those studies because the threshold for safety adverse events is much lower than it is in older populations that are at higher risk for COVID. They're really careful with that younger group. So that's the latest I heard. Could change. Also similarly hoping the FDA does give its full approval. I can have some words having been in pharma before about the bureaucracy at the FDA sometimes. But hopefully that will come sooner or later in terms of full approval for 12 and up, which could lead to mandates for other groups besides those that California has already mandated. So kind of keep our eye on it and kind of follow it and adjust as we need to.
Well, I do appreciate, I just want to share this with the public. In the consent calendar, there were 2 positions that, are responsive to this. Other districts have actually, asked if we have examples of this. We do have 2 positions that the board approved tonight because of these needs for medical health and for mental health. We need to make sure that we are taking care of our medical, physical health. And also, as Martha, leads a phenomenal work and with others, Caroline Morton, et cetera, School Link Services, psychologist, we need to do that. So I want to thank the board for approving those positions as coordinators so that we can, be equipped and have the capacity to deal with those things, knowing that social emotional learning is instrumental to us at this point going forward. Again, the good thing, if there is such a good thing about the moment we're in, is it really focuses us on those preconditions of learning, which are physical health and social emotional health.
So I just also wanted to reiterate the thanks to Martha for bringing this to us and for all of your work on all of this and expanding both of those programs, as Sean just mentioned. And also would love to continue, we've already said this, but given the dire need right now, mental health awareness among students, as well as family members and other impacts, I think it's wonderful that we're doing that. I'd love to at some point soon in the year kind of see again a report on how it's rolling out and how we're able to serve people and how that's working. That would be great. The other issues on the medical health side, I would love to see at some point soon a little bit more clarification on symptoms and going to school or not going to school and the role that testing might be able to play in that, because I know that we want kids to go to school as often as they can, and pre-COVID days people would go to school with coughs or runny noses or other kinds of things, and I think that it would be helpful to have kind of a little bit more clarification maybe for how we do that and an exploration of how testing could play a role in that to allow us to continue to send kids to school. I don't know if you all experienced it, but this summer there were all sorts of little bugs going around because suddenly people are out and about and you're vaccinated, but you're still getting other things. And it's sometimes really hard to navigate in this new world. And I have a feeling it's going to be difficult for parents with their children to know what to do and how long to keep their kids home for. And I think testing could perhaps play an important role in that. So I know we'll be looking at testing for our potentially unvaccinated employees, but if there's some way of partnering with the state in other kinds of testing, I just think it would be really helpful. And I know that other, universities are doing still the monitoring testing every 3 days. Students are getting tested. And I know we never got to that point, but we did have it once or twice a week up at the high school. So I just like to at some point be able to talk about how that can play a role in helping kids who maybe have other health issues or colds or other things returning to school and everybody feeling comfortable and knowing kind of what the parameters are or what they can do. So
I definitely agree with you that that is a next step so that kids that can be in school are in school for sure. Absolutely.
I want to thank Martha also for participating in the call that the California Department of Public Health just recently had. Again, I signed us up for end-to-end testing. We're hoping that the California Department of Public Health will provide either staff or services. Martha will be investigating that along with Susan Vanna, and we will wind up bringing that back to you so you understand that. And our hope would be that it would be for staff and students. And they're just permutations, and we just have to see how the California Department of Public Health or San Mateo County Office of Education, if they set up a piggyback contract for us like they did last year with Curative, what that looks like. And so we will mark that as part of our agenda for months ahead. And I do agree with you, Freya, that I think because Martha and Caroline Morton are working with all kinds of different people, ALAS, Care Solace, Coast Pride, different partners on the mental health and the counseling piece. We will bring you more information on that. And it's fantastic because I know Martha always wants to share this information about the good work that's happening there.
And just to add on the testing piece too, I think it's important to remember that the city is still doing weekly testing, which is free. Walk-in appointment, walk-in is fine, no appointments are necessary. And I just want to make sure everyone's aware that's happening now on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You could just Google City Half Moon Bay COVID testing and get all the details there. And of course, pretty much any healthcare provider, Coastside Clinic on Highway 1 or others would be able to serve any families that have any doubt or questions about potential symptoms of COVID. So I think that those are messages we want to keep in mind and, kind of alongside with the vaccinations, not for breakthrough, not necessarily just for breakthroughs. It just, of course, we know happens, albeit at an exceedingly low rate, but also because we don't know, we do have, even if it's a relatively small unvaccinated population, still, it exists. So I think that's important to just help people connect to those existing resources for testing as well.
Well, and as we saw in that email Martha sent out, that our county is doing really well, but we have some cities on the coast that are pretty low. I think, wasn't El Granada, or I think Moss Beach was like 50% or 55% or something. So
I did talk with city staff about this. There is some concern that maybe the data might be erroneous. But
that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I think Martha, when she asked me, hey, can I include the test? Yeah, we want to urge everybody. But yeah,
I've seen that data before too. And I was like, wow, I was surprised we were so different on the coast. So I hope there's some.
So Dr. Morrow addressed that too last week, earlier this week, actually. And there is actually, and his staff did too, because there is some, the data is not super clean for the coast side, I think particularly outside of incorporated Half Moon Bay, but directionally they have spoken to like the coast side, which again, I don't know with what specificity, if that's what we think of as the CUSD part of the coast side or La Honda Pescadero. But in general, they think there are some pockets on the coast side that have been harder to reach. So I think that is important that we continue to support, in all our roles. We're here kind of in the education space, but we all are, all of us here, we have that opportunity in our community to support people to get to those medical access points for vaccinations or testing or whatnot. So as much as we can do that, that'd be great.
I saw people getting vaccinated today. So
yay.
Still happening.
Yeah. CVS, right? Pharmacies open, Coastside clinics every Sunday. I forget the hours, but again, the clinic on Highway 1. So it's just kind of connecting people, supporting people, I think is important.
Great. Thank you so much, Martha, for all the information. Anyone else have any comments before we move on? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's move on. We'll go now to item 5D, Restorative Restart Overview. Dr. McFetridge. You're muted.
Thank you very much. I'm going to introduce this item. Rosie's going to pull up this two-page document that has been provided by PACE, the Policy Analysis for California Education. And I'm going to ask Rosie just to keep it here on the first page. This Monday, we had our all staff professional development, and I had 10 minutes to introduce. And so I was able to key in on like just a little bit here, and I want to share that with you. We will bring this restorative restart document back to you, but this is a synopsis, a two-page synopsis with sort of recommendations that are best practice recommendations from various policy groups that have been synthesized in the state level. And what I wanted to focus everybody on is the fact that I'm going to talk about one concept tonight, and that we can review this real quick, but I want to focus on one concept and then say, this is like a roadmap. This is like, I want to introduce it. It's kind of like an introduction. And in the future, you will see how things kind of sort of dovetail with these recommendations. But what I shared with all our colleagues on Monday in our back, to school convening, where we honor our employees for their years of service and welcome new employees, et cetera, and start our professional development, which was basically about restorative practices. That concept has gone to restorative restart for many people. And if you will look at this, you'll see, the why is there, which is, hey, COVID happened. This is a time that we need to tend to ourselves and to restart and rebuild and reimagine our schools. But if you look at that second paragraph, it says every California district should take 6 weeks to offer students, families, and educators a restorative restart to the 21-22 school year, leveraging recent federal and state investments to do so. During this time, schools should prioritize practices that not only begin to reverse the effects of pandemic-induced lost learning opportunities, but lay the groundwork for systemic transformation using evidence-based whole child approaches to advance learning and engagement for all students. So we can talk about that as far as medical health. We can do more for our students ongoing forever about their medical health, right? Like Hazel Health could be telehealth. If a parent, if a family is unable to, if they want to get some telehealth, we have that contract. They can get onto Hazel. They can get a doctor or a physician assistant to tell them what's wrong with their child and how to address that. We can look at what Martha just talked about social behavioral, social emotional, medical health. But what we know is that we all have to work over the next 6 weeks, and then I would dare say forever, about honoring each other, taking care of each other, and knowing about the health of our wealth of all our colleagues, students, families, staff, all of us, everyone in the community. So I really just wanted to reinforce to all our staff on Monday, we need to take care of one another. We need to spend the next 6 weeks really connecting with kids and really connecting with each other and taking care of each other. We have to connect one-on-one with each and every family. We know there is work ahead to do better with that. Even though we had several presentations at Moonridge for Spanish-speaking families, for example, and we've tried to make more and more communications for Hispanohablante Spanish-speaking families, we need to connect one-on-one with each and every family. And of course, the teachers in the classrooms are the ones who do this with their students and their families. And we really need to have those connections, right? And we need to do that with administrators. And we all need to take care of connecting one-on-one and communicating and connecting. And there's more work to be done. There's always improvement, but we are working on that. And then creating dedicated time and space for relationship building and re-engagement. A lot of this includes like rebuilding relationships. I will say that, we get into negotiations with our bargaining units and our unions, there's an aspect of this where when we're sitting down, we're saying, okay, let's talk about how I angered you. Let's talk about how we feel. Let's talk about what we want. Let's focus on what we want and let's rebuild our relationship. And I so appreciate CUTA spending time with us this week as we talked about that. I know Stig Lin and his CSEA colleagues talking about that with our families, but especially with our children. Let's create dedicated time and space to build those relationships because we've been out of sorts. We've not been all together, and re-engage. Then you'll see number 3, implementing positive and restorative discipline practices. A lot of the work that Martha is working on is about this positive behavioral intervention supports. There will be more work of building that muscle memory, of focusing on the good, focusing on positive behavior, encouraging that positive behavior, not being so punitive, finding alternatives to suspension. Martha and I were just talking about that today. Caroline Morton wants to do that work about alternatives to suspension, keeping kids in school, and having restorative discipline practices. So that's part of the restorative restart. Now, I just wanted to focus on those 3 items, but if you keep going down, you'll see number 4 is conducting regular student wellness screenings. We kind of talked about that. We're building that muscle. Number 5, assessing student learning and review data on attendance, engagement, and grades. We're building that muscle. We will continue to fold in reports to you on that. And when that comes, we have to be able to say, okay, that's not where we want it to be. We need to focus on what we want. We don't need to feel shame and blame about where it's not where we want to be. We need to show commitment and teamwork and tenacity to say, let's move and focus on what we want. Then you'll see number 6, create individualized action plans to meet the whole child needs of every student. Of course, those are our educators in our classrooms that do that. Rosie, could you go to that second page for me? Again, I'm just giving a gloss and a big picture of this. But we will fold this, and we will weave these threads together future in the year. But I wanted you to see sort of what the county office education, what the state kind of wants us to focus on. You'll see pair students with high dosage tutoring. We are currently contracting with partners and looking at extended learning opportunities, and you're seeing some of those contracts, and we will continue to do that so we can get tutoring to people. Mental health supports, you just got a presentation. We will continue to provide mental health supports. Expanded learning opportunities, I just mentioned that. That's part of the high dosage tutoring. That's part of enrichment for all those different cognitive things that we think are so important to the whole child. And that includes singing and dancing and painting and playing instruments and all those different expanded learning opportunities that we know connect people to their hearts and to themselves and their passions and the world of the culture we live in. And then you say staff up to support student re-engagement. Indeed, we did that. You're doing that tonight with approval of 2 new positions to help us with social emotional health. And then you see number 11, prioritizing racial equity, advancing racial equity in curriculum and teaching. You know, we have charged and asked and invited the high school to work this year on the ethnic studies curriculum so that cultural geography or world geography at the freshman year becomes ethnic studies. This doesn't have to happen until 2028 or something, or I think by new legislation, but we want to do it now. And John Nazar and Andy Boysen and Deanna Tower will work with the social studies department so that we can look at ethnic studies. But you can also see from the Heritage Months, we're going to institutionalize this. We're going to have banners. We're going to have people talking about this. We're going to have kids talking about that. They already do, but we really need to look at racial equity. We need to look at cultural equity in our curriculum and our teaching, the adoption of new books that reflect all the people, all our relations, and not just a white perspective, not just what we've sort of focused on in the past. Offering students choice and voice in their learning. I will tell you that, in the next couple presentations, you will see something about a CCAP agreement with the community college. We want to give students the opportunity at the high school to be able to have a career technical education path that is a college class, or have remediation opportunities that are college classes, or have acceleration opportunities that are college classes, so that they have choices and that they can leverage and parlay those choices into community college if that's what is affordable for them, easier for them. Choice and voice in learning, we just remind our teachers and educators, that agency is huge for adult learning theory and also for learning theory in general. Then you'll see focus on priority standards and lessons to accelerate learning. Certainly last year, we asked people to really focus on the power standards, the most core standards, and we will continue to focus on the priority standards and lessons to accelerate learning at a time when we had some learning loss. And finally, you'll see the systemic transformation pieces, engaging diverse teams to monitor improvement and build towards long-term change. Currently, Mr. Contreras and Dr. Bhatia are working with administrators to build a data machine so that we can look at different ways, standardized data package, if you will, performance management system, to look at where we are, how we can improve, and how we can work toward long-term change. So again, I don't want to go any further than this. I wanted to give you a brief overview. I'm happy to take questions, but again, you will see threads of this woven into future meetings. And I want to remind everybody of the key points. The next 6 weeks, we have to spend on reconnecting, rebuilding our relationships, taking care of one another. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
I can start just to say with a comment to say, thank you, Sean. This is so, so important. I know this was a keynote presentation at the CSBA delegates meeting a couple months ago. And I know it's a report that was developed by PACE, endorsed by CSBA, AXA, CTA, and so like, I think around 40 groups that are kind of state policy makers in education. So I think this is really, this should be our North Star. And in many ways, I think these should be our personal goals for every single one of us in the education community on the coast side. So I hope that we can, there's a full report that goes through as well, but like even just a snapshot, this is very informative in terms of, you know, again, our North Star. And on your wellness point, since Lizette brought it up, I just want to share something with everybody. This was my elephant.
That's the elephant in the room.
That's the elephant in the room is my painting that I made. Thank you, Lizette, for mentioning it, because it was super fun. And I just want to encourage folks, you know, educators, community members, whoever, like, it's, even if you don't consider yourself a painter, this is like, there were kids there, there were like abuelas there, there was me there, it was everybody. And Nacho Moya, who is a professional artist and the instructor, is just an inspiration and a force of nature, and just so artfully, no pun intended, well, maybe a little bit, wove in social emotional wellness and learning as he was doing this work with his students online. This was on Zoom. Hopefully, like, I know someday they're going to want to get back, but right now it's on Zoom. It's super convenient. I've definitely put a plug in for following Alas, or check their website, or, you know, emailing them or whatever, because it's super fun. So yeah, but to the point, again, thanks, Sean, for bringing this again. I hope that we could all take this to heart and really kind of keep this as our cheat sheet for guiding us throughout the year, and especially in those next 6 weeks. So if you think about it, 6 weeks is basically through the end of September. So what we're hearing you say, and I could not support you more, is like, for the next 6 weeks, let's not worry about all the grammar we would have covered, you know, all the like kind of milestones we'd hit in previous years, because right now what's important is that we get to know each other, and we, you know, more than we did even before, that we get to establish those relationships and appreciate each other and see each other as human beings, not numbers on a roster or numbers on a sheet, or, you know, statistics on a data presentation or whatever. You know, we're all real people, and we need to, you know, to support our students, we really need to see them especially as such, and we need to see each other as such. And I think this is a great framework for doing that. And it's worth the investment, right? And I don't want us to worry about, well, we didn't like do what we wanted to do normally, and we have to like rush to make up for last year. That's going to be a false start, because we need to have this foundation to be able to do so. So I hope that we can really commit again through the end of September to really make this happen. So thank you for your leadership, Sean, and bringing this to us.
I just want to bring up, you know, look, when it says restorative restart, a lot of that language, restorative, talks about our restorative practices. We can be in a punitive mindset. We can be in that blame and shame, you know, mindset, you know, and the discipline that we've done in the past, or we can restore one another. We can, and restorative practices often enter 3 questions. What happened? What was the impact? And how do we make it better? We know in this regard, COVID-19 created a lot of pain, worry, anxiety, damage to our community, damage to our nation, damage to us. But we can say what happened, what was the impact, and how do we make it better? And that is in all our relations. As adults with kids, with our families, as a community. I think that's really important. And so I want to point that out, that connection, that through line between a restorative restart and restorative practices is important for those in the public who aren't educators and don't know what I mean by restorative practices. It's a new way of looking at how we deal with each other so that we can not exclude people, how we can include people, so we don't blame and shame people, how we can support people, and how we can try to find restoration where there's been harm. So that's kind of the main goal, and we will continue to work toward this and tilt at this windmill and aim at bending that arc over and over again for the rest of our lives as educators.
I just want to say I appreciate that it's a positive reset. It makes space for lifting everybody up. So thank you.
And I always appreciate, Ms. Hines, how your tone is always about assuming best intentions, about honoring people where they are. You know how I feel about that. You're a kindred spirit in that way. We all should aspire to that, about trying to help one another. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Anyone else? Okay, thanks for that. Moving on. Let's go to item 5E. So the next three items, E, F, and G, are all action items. They're also public hearings. So I think what we'll do is we'll do the presentation, then we'll do the public hearing, then we'll do the motion, and then we'll do discussion for the next three. So 5E, public hearing and approval of board policy 6158, independent study update.
So I'm going to present on this real quick. This summer, the California legislature gave us a very daunting challenge, which is no more remote learning. And we're going to do independent study different. And get ready. Are you done yet? And the first step is you had to change a policy. I'm presenting tonight, staff has worked on this. We are presenting tonight a policy on independent study that is basically wholesale taken from the California School Boards Association, and that has to be approved tonight if we're going to get independent study started. We didn't invent this. This is California School Boards Association policy that is brought to us and follows the law. I do want to say, for complete transparency, I did get an email from a CUTA representative tonight who said, hey, I'm looking at this policy and, you know, it says this, and can charter schools provide this? And that's not what the law says. The law says that we are, you know, either going to have to send students away to do independent study, or we're going to serve them with our own employees. I was at Pilarcitos today. We were talking about that. We've posted another posting for another independent study, Pilarcitos hire, in case we need to do that. I don't think we're going to have a lot of students take up on independent study here. I think in the coast side, people are wanting to get back to school, but we are having some people who are signing up for independent study. There are laws about that. I'm not going to like go into this policy step by step by step. You all can review it. The public can see it, but I do want to give you the big picture here. We have to get this policy. I'm recommending that you will approve what your association, the California School Boards Association, provided to us, because basically all the districts right now in the county are scrambling, saying we've got to get this thing approved so that we can start independent study, because by law, that's how it has to be. As far as the items, there's a memo introducing it, telling you why. There's the notice of public hearing. So if there were any comments from the public, they could be heard, because for independent study, that's required. And then there's a board policy and administrative regulation. We don't typically bring the administrative regulations, but Rosie said, should we offer it? And I said, absolutely, let's give this to the board. You all have reviewed this. We recommend approval because it is the precondition of being able to start independent study. It's not like how we want to work typically, but time is of the essence, and I want to make sure you know that it is the best practice legal guidance from the California School Boards Association, and we would recommend approval.
Thanks, Sean. I know I was kind of nitpicking at it, and I asked Sean a few questions earlier about this, or why is it this, and he kept saying, it's the law, it's the law. It's the law. So I'm glad we were able to get that from CSBA. Any other questions or no, wait, we're not gonna do that yet. Sorry. We're gonna open the public hearing. So the public hearing is now open. Rosie, are there any comments, or are there any comments from the public?
Hi, Mary Beth, we have no comments.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public session. Public session is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Rosie, we're not taking roll. Discussion. Comments, questions? Made mine a little early, oops.
I just want to, I understand that it's the law and we need to do it. I also do appreciate the flexibility that it can give to students, and because I do think we're still in uncertain times, and I think that it can be stressful, and there's also other things that make school stressful sometimes for some students, and this provides more avenues and kind of direction on that independent study. And I think that anything like this, and like we're going to be looking at the community college agreement next, that provides a little bit more options for different people who just might have different needs. I think it's, I also think that that's a benefit as well. So I just want to throw that in there.
Thank you for that comment.
Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Rosie, roll them.
Lizette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
5+1. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. And just again, to wrap that up, the policy does change things. The independent study will be, because the way the legislature set it up, there's more reporting, more work we need to do. I want to thank the Pilarcito staff and others who were involved with independent study last year, particularly, and this year ahead, for rolling with the punches. And as Ms. McCammett said, really trying to find options and strengthening this in case they don't feel safe to come back quite yet. But I'm also wanting everybody to know that we want to serve you here in our schools. We think that is the best. If you can't, we have another option. Okay.
Great. Okay, item 5F, also an action item. Public hearing and approval CUSD, CMCCD, CCAP agreement and board policy 6172.1, concurrent enrollment in college classes.
I want to introduce this item, but I'm actually not going to make a presentation tonight, but I'm going to introduce it so you have context. We've had a policy before about taking college classes at the high school level. It limited to 11 units. Students had to be on campus 180 minutes a day. It happened at the high school a bit, at Comprehensive High School, Half Moon Bay High School, happened through Pilarcitos and independent study. But this is a whole different thing. So what happened is Dr. Aaron McVean, who is with us tonight, and you'll see he's there in the corner, he's joining to, hey, Dr. McVean. So Dr. McVean approached me saying, hey, you know about the CCAP agreement. The San Mateo Community College District is re-upping these agreements with San Mateo Union High School District, with Jefferson Union High School, did I get that? Jefferson Union High School District, with South San Francisco Unified School District, with Sequoia Union High School District, and said, would you like to join? I'm going to let Dr. McVean give more information on this, and Rosie will bring up the presentation. But basically what this does is it gives us an opportunity to plan, per the agreement, to plan a course of study that could be happened at the college level that would be offered on our campuses and at no cost to the colleges or to us. It's based on legislation. I want to say AB 288 Holden from 2016. I could be wrong. I got that right. Thank you, Dr. McVean. My memory sometimes. And and basically, Dr. McVean and his counterparts at the college level have been able to do this very successfully with other school districts. We want to explore this. This is a platform. This is a policy platform. It starts it. I did have a board member ask me, well, there's nothing listed there as far as the classes or times. We will plan that. But I've also met with Dr. Jennifer Taylor Mendoza, the president of College of San Mateo. I'll be meeting with her again this month. We will start making those connections so that we can plan this with Half Moon Bay High School and Pilarcitos High School, and hopefully also with our adult school. But this is basically just for the high school, and I'm gonna stop. Dr. McVean has waited so long patiently. Thank you. I know these late night meetings are a lot because you have another board you got to report to. And I also want to say that Lisa Petrides, Dr. Petrides, the board member for San Mateo Community College District that represents the coast side, is also here on the call. I think she's listening in. Thank you, Dr. Petrides, for joining. And Dr. McVean, if you would take us through the presentation so that the board understands what they're talking about.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much, Superintendent McFetridge. And just like Sean says, you can call me Aaron. Really a pleasure to be with you here this evening, just to talk a little bit about the CCAP dual enrollment agreements. As Sean said, we've been had this agreement with the other four major districts for the past 3 years, and we're renewing all of those CCAP agreements in order to continue to offer dual enrollment courses on their high school campus. And that's really the key difference here to previous experiences that some folks may have had with concurrent enrollment. This really is intended to be a seamless experience for high school students entering into guided pathways in their junior and senior year as part of their normal high school day taught on the high school campus and earning up to 15 college credits per term on their way to making the transition to higher education, whether it's with our community college district or whether it's higher education in general. So that's a big piece. And next slide, please, Rosie. You can see there, square in the middle, Cabrillo, thrilled to bring you into the fold as being the CCAP agreement. And as Sean said, what the agreement allows is for us to develop what courses make sense based on the high schools, the students of the Cabrillo district. And so depending on the high school district, we have a variety of courses offered in career education pathways or transfer pathways, depending on the focus of the high school, depending on the focus of the district. And so that's to be worked out, but the overall agreement allows us to engage in that work with any institution within the district. And so with either high school, and we can work out different courses depending. So next slide, please. And his memory served him right. It was Assembly Bill 288 Holden that expanded this. And so you'll see a lot of the legislation language reflected in the agreement, but it does require, it's a district to district agreement. And so not only does it allow us to work with any institution within your district, it allows partnerships with any of the colleges within our district. As Sean said, Dr. Jennifer Taylor Mendoza just took over as president of College of San Mateo. She's also an El Dorado resident, so also on the coast side. I know she's excited to get started on this work, but it's not limiting from our perspective. And so some of our pathways are unique. For example, biotechnology is at Skyline College. And so we have dedicated biotech courses across all the up and down the peninsula because that pathway is specific to Skyline. And so we don't limit the choices are either about what pathway we can develop depending on where the interest is. And so next slide. More of the language, again, allowing up to 15 units per term for students. And really this is part of what we see as part of our free community college initiative that you may have heard of or seen recently adopted in our district strategic plan, because students don't have to pay for dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment classes. They take on no debt as they're earning college credits. And then if they make the successful transition to our district, they bring in maybe a semester, maybe a little bit more of credits with them. That reduces their time to completion. And ideally they get into our Promise Scholars program, which then takes them all the way through our district at any of the colleges for no cost. We pay for tuition, we pay for fees, we pay for textbooks, we give monthly incentives, and then we connect them with a dedicated counselor so that they're insured to complete on time. So we really see this as the first step, that fundamental component in our free community college initiative. And so want to absolutely make sure that that's available for the students here in Cabrillo. And then next slide. And I provided just a couple of examples that we have. You see we have and these are from Skyline. I'll tell you, Skyline College has been the leader for us. And 3 short years ago, we had maybe 60 enrollments in dual enrollment that were in instructional service agreements. I know we've had some ISAs in the past with Cabrillo even. This term we'll have about 3,000 students enrolled in dual enrollment through Skyline College. We had 3,500 enrollments overall just this past spring in dual enrollment. And so the expansion has been tremendous. The interest is there. And so this gives you a sense of some of those, right? We have the early childhood education pathway. And not only does it go to us, but we have great relationships with San Francisco State that carries the students right through to their bachelor's degree program, their teacher credentialing program. It's a big need in the area as well. So that's a dedicated pathway. Biotech, like I mentioned, is one of the pathways. It's one of our most exciting pathways, great partnerships between our faculty and faculty at the high schools, and then healthcare as well. We have a number of different healthcare pathways, from respiratory care to surg tech to radiological technician. All those can start with those entry-level classes as part of dual enrollment. And so also, more of those career education focused pathways. But again, we don't limit it. The language is very permissive in the CCAP agreements. And so whatever makes sense, wherever the interest is, that's our interest in making sure we put those in place as soon as possible. So next slide. Brief and to the point, but again, really thrilled to be able to enter into this partnership with everyone here. Great to meet everyone here virtually. I'm just actually 3 blocks north of the district office. So one of these days I'll just walk on down to the board meeting. But it's a great opportunity for students. And really, this has been one of the most exciting areas of growth we've seen in the district over the past 3 years. And with our board support adopting our free community college initiative, that's why Trustee Petrides is here with us tonight. It's just a great opportunity for the students here on the coast side. So thanks so much for having me tonight.
And I just would like to add, if I may, just that I want to tell you that the board is just 100% behind this. We've been very excited about the Free Community College Initiative, the Open Textbook Initiative, the College Promise programs. And as some of you know, and it's good to see some of you who I've met through campaigning and things. Hi, Freya and Sean and Lizette and Sophia. So we're nice to see my K-12 counterparts here. Wish we could see you all in person, but soon, I hope. And know that, as well as Aaron mentioned, the president of CSM is here on the coast, and we have definitely been talking and planning and can't wait to sit down with some of you and talk about some additional things that we could be doing here on the coast as well. I think this is just a great first step. Thanks, Aaron, for that presentation. And we're just want you to know the board we are fully here and with you in support.
Great, thank you so much for being here. If you'll hold for a minute while we do the public hearing, we'll then see if people have questions after that. So let's open the public hearing. And Rosie, do we have any comments?
Hi, Marybeth. No, we don't have any comments for this item.
Okay, thank you. We will close the public hearing then. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, how about a second?
I'll second.
Oh. Lots of seconds.
I'll take Sophia. Thank you.
Okay, discussion.
I'll start and I'll say thank you for the presentation and thank you for your time. Every time I hear something like this happening, it's so amazing. We are uniquely isolated, and transportation isn't always easy. I myself am an alumni of San Mateo College. I did go to Skyline because I flunked my my statistics class, but I basically went to CSM, and transportation was horrible. Public transportation at one time took me 2 hours just to get there, so it was really, really bad. And I know that it's still an issue currently. So anything that we could provide for the students, and if it's gonna save them money and help them out, I mean, God bless everybody who's behind this, and I'm so excited. And I hope it is just the beginning of other things to come for the students and for this our unique community. So thank you for everything, and I just wish I was born many, many years later. Thank you.
I'll make a comment, Lizette. I'm glad you were born when you were, that you're here with us today. But just again, thank you to you guys for and Sean for working together and kind of discovering this opportunity for our students. I think to me this is like jaw dropping. It's that I think big of a potential for our community to be able to have students get their foot in the door at community college while, you know, being here in the coast side during high school. It's such a leg up. And really speaks to, you know, I think is a big opportunity for being able to prepare kids for college and careers. And these are very exciting fields too that you had there around biotechnology. They're really relevant, and they're not just jobs, but they're high wage jobs, relatively speaking. And I think as we look at workforce development, which is a topic that's come up with the Coastside Recovery Initiative that I've been part of, and looped in Sean with that a bit as well, and Matt Litton at the adult school. It's like, that's what we want. We don't just want people to have jobs that they can like get, you know, small paychecks and try to like subsist on that, but really being able to get their foot in the door towards a college degree and or towards certificates and you know, actual hands-on experience and jobs that are going to pay them well enough to support their families. So I'm really grateful for that. So it's really great to have this started, and I'm excited to see where it goes. No questions. So I think you answered them all during your presentation. Like I was going to ask, I think you said typically your hope would be students would leave, you know, could leave high school with as much as like a semester's worth of college credit, which is great, you know, to your point about like financial savings and, you know, missed earnings of being in school for an extra semester. I think that's fantastic. So thank you. Again, partnership.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a couple of questions. In terms of the pathways that we saw at the other high schools, how did those pathways, how were they created? How did they emerge? Was it because there were core teachers at the high school and that was their interest? Or was it community driven, need driven in some way?
Yeah, so they developed through the partnership and through the discussion. That's the work to be done. So some of the high schools in Jefferson, for example, they have more focus in certain areas, right? So like the biotech focus, that's a program that we've had, but it was also a focus at one of their high schools. And so it was a natural alignment. They had an instructor who met the minimum quals to teach them that, and they wanted to engage, and we had an instructor interested. Others, it just depends on who's available. And so this is one of the conversations Sean and I had was, it can be high school instructors who meet the minimum qualifications to teach the class. It can be adjunct instructors, full-time instructors from our district. It all depends on what the need is. The legislation is very clear. It's very protective. There's no displacement of jobs on either side. There's no displacement of classes on either side. So we make sure that that is taken very seriously because that is the key to the sustainable partnership. But really it develops out of, from our perspective, what's the interest in the high school, right? So what is it? And if you don't have a specialization, then what's the more general interest? Is it more in preparing that transfer pathway, not just to the community college, but beyond to the 4-year? And that's where the discussions come in. So it's very wide open as to what's the interest and what's the desire, in particular for Cabrillo, to see those pathways. You know, we have our degree programs, we have our different pathways, and so they're all open. But it really comes down to where do we want to start, and then where do we want to build towards as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kim, I'll just say on this point, I was over with Pilarcito staff today, Lizeth Bendanya and Dudley Hughes, for example. And we were talking about this vis-a-vis independent study and this, because we've been talking about this and I've been talking to them and John Nazar, et cetera, et cetera. And they said, Sean, would this be available for career technical education? I said, yes, it's all about what you want to do. Dr. Taylor Mendoza wants to meet with you and talk about where to meet you. They have a lot of students who are really interested, for example, in health professions. This is a logical way, you know, when you start with a certificate program at the community college in a health professions, those become the people that later are my x-ray techs, my MRI techs. So this is like an on-ramp to the health professions, which is highly lucrative, highly needed, wage-sustaining job. So this is a phenomenal thing. So Lizeth Bendanya and Dudley are like, wow, that'd be fantastic. And guess what? It's an add-on. I think that's really important. What Aaron just said is the law, the Assembly Bill 288, Holden, as it's written, that legislation really makes sure that we are not taking jobs away from people at the community college side or at the high school side. Because I know there's always that kind of, you know, let's talk about it. That's an elephant in the room when you talk about equity. Hey, if we give more resources to these people, is that going to take resources from us? Is that going to change things? We should be thinking about this as an additive. And so Pilar Citos is excited, wants to like meet, and Dr. Taylor Mendoza reached out to me. She wants to meet. And then at the high school, I think you'd have again, I would let that go. We're trying to provide a policy platform. We give it to the high school, and then the high school, comprehensive high school, would say, okay, this is what we want to add. This is what we're interested in. This is what the need is. But again, I would hope that this would be about career technical education, remediation, and acceleration. You know, and it's all about how much San Mateo Community College District can afford to give us, but bless you for doing it. It was just a godsend and just a miracle, Aaron, when you called. And Lisa, I so appreciate you getting it and supporting it for Coastside youth and families here. You know, I think we're really excited to start, and I would hope the board would agree.
Just to add a comment too, Sean, as you're speaking, remind me to just encourage the team to make sure that we're reaching out to community partners as well, to get some guidance and direction from in terms of what pathways we choose to develop, you know, specific career pathways or transfer pathways, and like what level of interest there is, who to just, again, you know, and I think I've brought this up a lot in terms of kind of what went really well last year that I saw, which was a lot of our cross-functional committees that have families that had different, you know, people in different roles on them. I think this is something that I would be reticent to see kind of done insularly without making sure that we get the input on, do we look at biotechnology? Do we look at climate change? Do we look at healthcare? What are we looking at? I think that should be driven by the need and the interest of our students. So
yeah.
some way, I'll leave it to you to kind of gather that feedback from like, what are students interested in? What are families interested in? What are community leaders interested in through, you know, Joaquin or Belinda or others? I think that's really important.
Yeah, my own experience with my work in early college work in the past, in my past district and past life, and also in career technical education, is to a certain extent, this is about voice and choice, back to the restorative restart. I do think we would need to include students there and say, hey, you know, like at the high school, you have an ag science, strong ag science CTE pathway, and you have a strong growing construction trades pathway. What are you interested in doing? Are you interested in CTE? But we also have to make sure that everybody understands what's high need, high wage, you know, kind of CTE pathway. And then for the transfer student, okay, how do we support people if they're not going to be four-year college goers because they can't afford it, or because they are first-time college goers, didn't see it, they want to stay close to home, any kind of reason, then we say, okay, how do we dovetail that so that you have a leg up when you go to the community college district? And I just want to say too, I mean, the community college district and the county do have this promise program, do have the ability to open more doors for people who may have thought college was not affordable or accessible. And if we can do that and do that here in a partnership, whether it's with SMCCD staff, our staff, or online, since we're getting more comfortable with online, the sky's the limit. So certainly we would depend on Aaron and Jennifer Taylor Mendoza, Dr. Taylor Mendoza, and our own teams, whether it's at Pilar Citos or Half Moon Bay High School, to figure that out.
Very good, thank you.
Can I just get some clarification? Is dual enrollment when they take the class, a college class at the high school, and then concurrent enrollment is when they're a high school student that is also taking classes at the college? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, and then that was the big shift. So concurrent enrollment, students are earning college credit, they're taking college classes, and not necessarily, usually not earning high school credit along the way. A lot of those happen, you know, on the college campus, or they'd happen in the evening because of the restrictions.
They're not earning high school credit though, you said? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so in concurrent enrollment, it's just the college credit. Dual enrollment, both college and high school credit, and allowed to be just closed classes on the high school campus, part of their normal schedule, part of the regular day.
So could you do dual enrollment where you're getting both college and high school credit if you're going to the college as well?
We do through our middle college programs. Through our middle college programs, that they earn dual enroll. They earn both college and high school credit on the campus. But for these agreements, the dual enrollment is specific to taking it at the high school site. For this agreement, okay, got it. And I'm just curious. I mean, there probably is no answer to this because I think a lot of that policy we're reading is laws. But do you know why it's different? Why it's 11 credits for the concurrent enrollment and 15 credits for the dual enrollment? As you just said, just an artifact of legislation where someone thought it was a good idea to limit it to 11 previously. And so AB 2, one of the big pieces was to undo that and make it all the way up to 15 units. Yeah.
Okay. I had one other thing in that policy. It talks about needing board approval for kids to do, I guess it's for them to do concurrent enrollment. Is it concurrent or dual enrollment? I don't know. Do we really need to get board approval? I mean, I guess it's a question for Sean. Is that part of the, I mean, I just feel like there might be a lot of kids doing this. Is that necessary?
Yeah, you know, this is an interesting piece. So Aaron and Lisa, please excuse me, but I've also accompanied this with our California School Boards Association model policy so that we're doing one motion, right? We're not, and so here's the CCAP agreement, but to be able to have the CCAP agreement, I'm bringing the CSBA policies. And again, I'm bringing them wholesale to you from California School Boards Association. They vary very differently. They're not very different from our existing policy, except they add the CCAP piece. Yeah, it says in those California School Boards Association board approval, but I don't think we're going to come to you with every child and say, do you approve this course? What we're going to come to you with is this course of study. Do you approve this? So I think the planning will happen, and then we'll bring the course of study and we'll say, do you approve this course of study? Okay. And then it will be up to the superintendent and, you know, my designee, the principals, the people who would be leading this, in whether it's Dr. Bhatia or others, and then we would take care of the mechanics of it. I think that's how I view the policy. Okay.
Yeah, because in the independent study, I think it didn't call for it, but it did in the concurrent enrollment. And I thought that seems like an extra work.
Here's the other thing. I wanted to put this in here so that we could have the platform, and we can certainly refine the policy over time and bring that to you as we're planning this. But again, Pilarcitos is chomping at the bit. Yeah. I think the high school, they're interested and they want to start the work, but I think they need to do more planning because it's a larger community, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, but just so you know, Mary Beth, I brought this tonight, the CCAP agreement. You've had the public hearing. There were no comments. State law changed, so it's not, you know, it's able to do it in one meeting. And then I also brought you the CSBA model policies so that you would change your policies at the same time. Okay. We think that's all connected and dovetailed. I wanted to streamline this for you.
Got it. And then I guess I've got another question too about the high school versus Pilarcitos. They're two different schools. Are there going to be classes offered at both, or will it be a roll up between the two of them? They can do, is it 4 classes, I think?
I think that has everything to do with planning. When I met with Dr. Taylor Mendoza, you know, she was like, hey, let's talk and let's see what we can do. I think that's the sky's the limit. We can explore that. Everything's going to be up to the capacity of our partners. And so we'll talk about that, but I think we are having 2 conversations. It's not a CCAP agreement for one school. It's looking at what could be done for both sets.
Our district.
Yeah, and I see Aaron's nodding. Okay. So
at another district that might have multiple high schools, it would be for all the high schools. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay. I mean, and just multiple, not alternative high schools.
Just a quick question, because I heard Aaron mention the middle college program, and we have had a number of students enrolled in that in the past. Are we still supporting middle college from California Bay High School?
We made a budget cut years ago. My predecessor, Jane Euster, put a limit on middle college. And of course, there was a concern about the cost of it. and also the distance of it. What's the beauty about the CCAP agreement, I'll just say it, is I think this has less cost for us. And it doesn't, well, number one, it's a less cost for us. And number two, it doesn't force kids to go over the hill. This CCAP agreement allows classes to be offered on our campuses. And that's a lot more liberating for students who, you know, might have impediments because they have to take care of their siblings, or they need to help with at the home, or they have after school jobs. I really, what I admire about the CCAP agreement, and what I admire about Aaron and Dr. Taylor Mendoza is when they've talked to me is, hey, we're trying to bring this to the coast. Aaron, as he said, is a coastside resident. Lisa is a coastside resident. Dr. Taylor Mendoza is a coastside resident. They're really trying to make, I think, if I understand it, their interest is serving us. And so how better to serve us than to serve us here?
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that this serves our community really well and fully support it. I just want to keep that a sliver of the middle college served some students really well also. And I understand the constraint of being over the hill, but for some kids that were really not comfortable in their own skin on the high school campus, that was an alternative, and it kept them still connected to our community. I just wanted to name that.
I think that's the case. Anybody knows me knows that this was like my studies in graduate school was the origins of middle college and early college. That used to be my work consulting on that. I will tell you the middle college typically was for students historically, for students who might have been struggling on high school campuses. I will say that Pilarcitos provides a really safe container, a really supportive, smaller container for that kind of student currently for us. And so I'm hoping that, basically when I talked to Lizeth Bendanya today, I said, well, to a certain extent, we could actually, try to build something like that here. That's what I would hope for, is that we don't have to put kids on buses like Lizette shared of her experience. That bus could be really brutal. And then for students who could afford it and drive over the hill, fine, that's great for them. But for a lot of our students, it would be much more comfortable to have it here. But I think we'll continue to explore it.
I just have to continue to say thank you to Aaron and Lisa and all the board members. And it's great to see and hear all the great work that you guys are doing. And with all, with students who are for one reason or another unable to access college the traditional way. I also work for Juvenile Hall, and you guys do a great job with Project Change. So just having you guys try your hardest to have this accessible to all students. You guys are amazing, and thank you. And I'm excited. I'm just sad that I'm so old now, and I wish I was young and could take advantage of all these great opportunities. But thank you for all the work you guys do.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So yes, thank you for coming. If we don't have any more comments, we'll thank you, and then we'll move on to taking a roll call. But I think we're all very excited about this, and I think it's great for students. So I'm excited to see what you're going to do with it now that we will hopefully approve it. Rosie, could you take the roll call, please?
Lisette?
Aye.
Marybeth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
5+1. Thank you.
Aaron, thank you. Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
And I also thank Jennifer Taylor Mendoza, who came to talk to us also, and bless you.
Exciting.
Let's get going. It's good.
Woo!
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Item 5G, public hearing and approval of budget overview for parents update. Sean, is that
Good evening, members of the board. On June 24th, we brought to you for approval a budget overview for parents along with the LCAP. And we told you that we would continue to engage with the San Mateo County Office of Education on the fine tuning of these requirements. And you might have looked at what I moved forward and you might say, this looks exactly about the same as the one that we approved. And what I wanted to bring to you, and we're dotting an I and crossing a T here, is an updated version of the budget overview for parents. The only change is that as we, as our colleagues in the San Mateo County Office of Education took a look at our LCAP and all of the different other state funds, they advised us to change that, and the changes in the second page and paragraph that we are now looking into accounting for other funds and as indicating that the actions and services that are tied to actions and in the LCAP are 34,374,702 as opposed to the 38 million that 374 that we had before. Those changes are just other expenditures that are not included in the LCAP, and that includes a lot of our maintenance and the expenditures that we use for our daily operations. So this is a change, and this requires a public hearing for this item, and if you want to do a public hearing or then the questions, and I can answer any.
Thank you, Jesus. Let's open up the public hearing. It's now open. Rosie, do we have any comments?
Hi, Maria. No, we don't have any comments.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. It is an action item, so I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, I think you're getting off scot-free, Jesus. I think anyone has anything?
I think it's because he's done his due diligence. Very bad.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, 5H.
Roll call, Mary Beth.
Oh, sorry, Rosie. Roll call.
Lisette.
Aye.
Mary Beth.
Aye.
Freya.
Aye.
Sophia.
Aye.
Kimberly.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
5+1. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rosie. Okay, 5H, presentation and public hearing to receive input for the use of ESSER 3 funds.
Good evening again. I am bringing to the board a presentation. Rosie, can you please set the presentation regarding the third round of federal funds that we are receiving. We just got last week our first apportionment of these funds. I want to bring to the board what this is all about, and then also to conduct a public hearing so that we can offer the opportunity to the public to provide us input as to how we can build the plan, the expenditure plan for these funds. And the next page, just basically letting you know that this is the third round of federal stimulus that has come our way. And you have seen that we have gone through the CARES funds. That was the first one that we had. And then the CURSA funds, that second one, and now we have the ESSER funds. And the next slide, Rosie. The basic nature of these plans is for a safe return to in-person instruction and the continuity of services. We had brought that some of the state dollars that we have already gotten for continuity of services and for in-person instruction. This is the federal dollar that is coming our way. This requires an expenditure plan that we will be bringing to the board for approval. And that date continues to move. It was September, now it's October 29, but we will be bringing to the board an expenditure plan for these funds. And the next slide, so what is it? What do we have to put in the expenditure plan? Next slide, we basically want to have this plan, as I said, to you by October 29th. So we are thinking that we will be bringing this to you either at the September 9th or the October 14th. And at that time, we will submit it to SMCOE for their approval. And then SMCOE will forward this to the California Department of Education. Our next slide is on some of the requirements for these dollars. This is very federal-ish. It's that we do this plan on a language that can be understandable, and that we involve parents and they understand what this is all about. And for our students and parents of students with disabilities, that we do provide an alternative format so that they can get involved. And the next slide, there is the requirement that we use 20% of these funds to address the impact that it had on our students, the loss of instructional time. So very specific about that 20%. And then in the next slide are starting the listing of what needs to go into the plan. The number one is that we use these funds to come up with a plan to prevent and mitigate what has happened during the pandemic, and that it is consistent with the CDC prevention guidance. Remember, CDC is a federal guidance. These are federal dollars. So they're basically telling us, whatever you do, follow the CDC guidance. The California guidance, of course, is always more strict than the federal guidance, but we do dot that I and cross this T always to make sure that these federal dollars are following the CDC prevention guidance. Next slide, that's the number one. The second one, I have already told you, that is about 20% of these funds are for the learning loss, to address the learning loss. And then here is the important thing. The third one, how will the district spend the remaining ESSER funds? So the reason why that is in there is because there is a number of things upon which we can, once we meet the requirement of 20%, then we need to see how we're going to be using those. The next slide then is whatever you do, they say, make sure that they're using interventions that respond to the academic, social, emotional, mental health needs of all students, and particularly those students that have been more impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This brings us back to the presentation that Martha made, that it is strictly talking about this, and some of the positions that you approved, that's the kind of dollars that we're going to be using to support those initiatives. So this brings together the funding for those positions. The next slide is this requires that we engage our stakeholders, and Leticia, Martha, and myself continue to get ways in which we can get all of our stakeholders involved. I made a presentation to our opening of schools committee regarding the ESSER 3s. So we are getting it out there to our community, to our stakeholders, so our DLACs, our ELACs, so that we can get the input that we would need and on those 4 particular requirements. So as we continue on, then the next slide is, so what is it that we're going to be looking at? The plan, I just took this slide to show you the detail in which the plan, the expenditure plan needs to address. What action are we taking? What are we spending on? How we will be monitoring this, and how often are we going to be monitoring this? You had asked Martha during her presentation, and so how will we know? Some of those are going to be linked in here to the plan that is coming your way, and I'm just showing you this as a sample of what is going to be coming your way. Now you're going to be seeing some of those actions that Martha and Leticia have talked about, and what we expect, how are we going to be investing in those, and how will we then be monitoring and produce the data that we would have to do this. We do have, I said in the memo, that we have $857,000 and 634. So it's a little good chunk of money that we have, but over $800,000, $8.5 million thousand dollars. I wish it were millions, but it's only $850,000. Why is it that this is very important for the federal government? Because how we got this amount of dollars is linked to the number of students, of our students who are for Title I students who are eligible for Title I services. So remember, Title I is the education of the disadvantaged, and then we look at the number of dollars that we have received, which it's not as big as some other districts are getting. I would say millions. Some of them districts are getting millions of dollars for this concept. We are only getting $857,000, which is not little money, but it is not as much as I would want for all the things that we would like to do, providing the services. But so this is what this is all about, and we are starting by holding a public hearing to start continuing the gathering of information or input for these dollars.
Thank you, Jesus. Let's open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Rosie, do we have any comments?
We have no comments, Mary Beth.
Okay, quiet night tonight. Okay, let's close the public hearing. This is a discussion item. We don't need to take any action, but I'll open it up now for any discussion or questions we might have for Jesus.
So are there any restrictions on what this money, I mean, I can imagine there are a number of things we can do in the context of closing the gap and learning loss. Are there any particular restrictions on this funding?
Yes, the restrictions are those that I just cited. The 20% is the really big restriction. It is pretty open, but as we continue to go through this on that Superintendent Petrich mentioned on yesterday's, governor's about vaccination, guess what it says? You can use these dollars. So there is a lot of new things that are coming to bear into if for vaccinating purposes we're going to be using these dollars outside of the 20%, and that is why it's important that number 4, where we were saying whatever we do, we need to make sure that it that gets to our students in most need. Now, I am going to be using some of these dollars also to support our HVAC repairs at all of our schools to make sure that we get the appropriate ventilation for COVID-19. And so it is open in that respect and restrictive in the sense that it is 20% for learning loss.
So for the input, Dr. Bhatia, we had, the VEPA conversations last year, and we've talked about equity. I mean, could it be used for a 4th, 5th grade? I mean, we saw that ALIS is going to be supporting the pre-K, K1, the early childhood with the music program. We know that it's that full suite of cognitive experiences that lifts up and will help correct and enhance learning. We know we have some gaps in what we offer. Is that something that, if it's made available to our at-promise students, is that something that would be considered?
Absolutely, because this is also open to expanded learning such as those. Expanding learning opportunities, expanding, and the expanded learning, which is enrichment, could be any.
Right, and with that type of, and I'm going to target music because we know we had a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment a couple of years ago who did an analysis, and it was a finding 3 or 4 years ago that there wasn't connectivity between elementary and middle school. If we're looking overall, that might be just one sliver of whole child support.
Hey, Sus, can I ask you a question? Are you looking for input from us now, or was it really my understanding from this item was that you're more just giving us a heads up, the proposed plan is coming and we can discuss it then, and we have to open, I guess there's probably some legal requirement to have a public hearing in case members of the public want to give us input, but I didn't really, my understanding is this is just like heads up, it's coming.
It is.
It was also discussion, and we just had a public hearing and there were no comments. So I think this is our chance to discuss it.
I think it is certainly appropriate for the board to sort of have this conversation, for you to have this conversation, and it will go ongoing with other deliberation going forward. And I will say that, I've heard from teachers that we could use this money for all kinds of things, right? Physical activity, arts and music, science. It's really all about sort of, as I understand it, Mr. Contreras, making sure that we hear from the board and the public about ways that we can strengthen our opportunities, and that a good percentage of that is for students who may not otherwise have that. So I think that is big picture. I think it is important. I mean, it's good, fine time for us to talk about that as a board. I think that's, fine. But there will be more to come. I think that's what I hear from Sophia, is there will be more to come, and we will continue to get board iteration on sort of plans we make. And to your point, Kim, I know that there is a VAPA committee that is discussing this. And I know that teachers are interested in saying, okay, how could this be of assistance to our students and also to our programs, to strengthen programs that are of need. I know there's a particular interest at the middle school about early science outcomes. I know that there is also an interest in visual performing arts. And this is kind of stuff that we could look at to bolster those programs.
And I also have to say that similar to the LCAP, it's based on input from communities, from our stakeholder groups. Jesus always really valuing his experience with CDE and the law. He's already talked to our OSSC and gotten input from OSSC, where we'll be doing the same with DLAC. And it is generic, but they do have a list of allowable uses. And that includes activities authorized by IDEA, the Family Literacy Act, coordination of preparedness for health, welfare, and wellness and well-being. And so the way we see it, and the way I personally see it, is like a mini LCAP, because we have to go through the same process of obtaining input, making sure that the input is aligned to the allowable expenses, which include the mental health. I'm reading here, supplemental services such as summer school, after school services for addressing learning loss, facility repairs, inspections.
And those are all those stakeholder groups. I certainly value all of their input. And we balance, I think, input versus information we've obtained in doing research along the way. And I think we balance that. And as a board, we're responsible for taking the input and acknowledging that any one of these groups, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So, when we have a discussion like this, we try to bring all of that information forward. So
certainly.
Thank you.
Certainly. Okay. Any other questions?
No? Okay.
Thank
you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 5I, approval of intent to submit a declaration of need for fully qualified educators for 2021-22.
That's me. I'm going to present on this. This is a pro forma thing. We do it every year. And it basically is one memo saying we ask for your approval to be able to submit a declaration of need for fully qualified educators. And it basically has to be submitted to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. It expires on June 30th, 2022. And it basically talks about limited assignment permits that are requested and allows us to basically anticipate emergency permits for CLAD credential and B-CLAD credential, which is particularly useful to us because of the Spanish-speaking population that we serve for the CLAD and the B-CLAD. And so we would recommend approval of this intent to submit a declaration. Again, it's kind of pro forma. We do this every year with you, but it gives us the opportunity to hire people and get them lined up with the work, and so that they can satisfy the requirement if they don't have it while they're teaching, which is allowable under law and Title V regulations.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion for Sean? Okay. Let's take roll call then.
Lisette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Passes 5+1. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. Okay, item 5J, adoption of resolution number 11-21, authorizing the superintendent to submit project funding request applications for improvements to Hatch Elementary School.
And this is basically a resolution that will let the Office of Public School Construction know that we intend to get reimbursement for the Hatch modernization expenditures that we are eligible for. So this resolution basically says we are here, we intend to get those dollars whenever those dollars are available. And that's the purpose of this resolution. A few meetings ago, you approved us to go back and do this process. So this is what this will start.
Thanks, Jesus. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions for Jesus?
No, but yeah,
questions. Oh, go ahead, Freya.
Yeah, no questions, but yeah, let's get some money back first.
Pretty much my thinking too. And also just kudos for you guys. I honestly, I look at things like this, I'm like, how do you keep these things moving in the midst of everything else you're doing? Because this is such a great opportunity to get funding back for money that we've already spent. And you've pretty much taken that guidance that we got from the experts that you pulled in just a couple months ago, and through all this preparation to get back to school on campus for the first time in what, 18 months or something, you're keeping this moving forward as well. That's really like the definition of operational excellence, and really helps us move forward to sustainability from the financial perspective as well. So I just want to also recognize that how many balls you've got in the air, and you're juggling them so well, Jesus. I'm greatly appreciative of that, and all of you, but this happens to be your item.
Thank you. It's a team effort always in here.
I want to thank Jesus for saying it's a team effort. I want to thank Dr. Bhatia for always reminding us it's a team effort. I want to thank my teammates, Rosie and Josefina, and our governance team. And team and partnership seems like the theme that we're starting the school year off with as part of our restorative restart. Thank you all for having these discussions and listening to our recommendations. Bless you.
All right, thank you, Jesus. Rosie, can we do roll call, please?
Lisette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Passes 5+1. Thank you.
All right, well, that was our last item. Sarah, don't think that you're always going to get out of here at 9:20, because it's not always this early. But we always understand if you need to go and do homework or things like that. But we are done. Future events coming up August 21st. There is a special board retreat at Pilarcitos High School in the King Room at 9 a.m. August 24th, there is a bond and parcel tax oversight committee meeting. It'll be via Zoom, and that's at 6:30 p.m. And September 9th, we have our regular board meeting via Zoom at 6 p.m. That wraps it up for us. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it. I didn't do one yet.
Lisette?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
5+1. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches.
Buenas.
Thank you.